Hey everybody, welcome back to Carnage Cup number 3. We are live with day 2, the finals of the 10K tournament. My name is Melcrit and I'm joined here by Thousand Eyes. We got a good set of games and a great set of teams to be watching today. Thousand Eyes, talk to me. We were in separate lobbies. What are you looking out for this first set of games?
I mean, the biggest thing that I'm watching out the gate is SSG because SSG kind of dominated our group. Just won a couple of games, were 30 points ahead of second place. It was completely their round to take. The other things that I'm watching are things like TSM was very wishy-washy. Sometimes they had some great games, sometimes they looked really just lackluster and were going down early. So, at least from what I saw in my group, those are the big things that I'm watching for.
Heck yeah. I actually love to hear that some of these other teams are getting in the mix, at least in my lobby. We saw some of the teams that we don't always expect in the top cut up there. I mean, we saw Optimal Ambition making their way through after a huge run across like 2 games. So it was cool to see. It's cool to see CLG also waking up a little bit. But TL, man, they were just going crazy and they were going so crazy on Storm Point specifically. Thousand Eyes, how do you feel about Storm Point as a map now that you've gotten to cast it for 3 games and we're gonna get another 3 today? What's the vibe? What are you feeling like?
I feel like it's just everyone's kind of touchy on it. Everyone's really uncomfortable on it. And we're seeing a lot of kind of weird rotations, people unsure of when they're going to run into things. So it's just really kind of funky how teams are going to really interact. So you have teams are still figuring out drop sites. They're figuring out the best ways to rotate through. And because of that, we saw a little bit of sloppy play, and there's still a lot of growing pains going on through that map. So I feel like if there's going to be any hectic kind of play, it's going to be coming through on our final 3 games of the day.
Oh yeah, I love that, and I love to see these teams try something different because they have to, right? They're on a new map. They got to figure it out. They got to try a lot of different things. In some cases, we saw like the Furia running with the Fuse, which is ridiculous. We saw TL putting down Mad Maggie for a game. I mean, there's so much cool stuff that is still left to be experimented with on the brand new map, and we saw some teams really making some of those new compositions work.
Yeah, we had I think like one team run Maggie a little bit. We didn't really have too much Maggie, but we did have a Fuse showing up on our lobby as well, and I'm sure we'll be seeing that again today. So I really like Fuse. I think Fuse is vastly underrated currently. And I think he's especially great against a lot of teams that want to run the caustic because he can pop those gas traps and make it really difficult for someone like Caustic to set things up and keep things up. He'll just constantly pop them, and you can't get set up really hardcore because you're just constantly getting barraged by that knuckle cluster.
Oh yeah, that is absolutely a bullying tool indeed. We'll see if Tech and the crew can make it work as well as whatever other squad decides to mix in the grenade lad into their game plan. But before we go to Storm Point, we've got a couple games on World's Edge. And on top of having games on World's Edge, we also have a contender that we're not going to be seeing a lot in the NALGS. Of course, Kick in the mix here. The EU team continues to just roll up to these tournaments and embarrass the homegrown talent in some cases. But I mean, it's cool, right? We get to see them just take whatever POI they might not be the most comfortable with and just do work. So that's what I'm excited to watch from my lobby. Were there any sleeper picks that you got to see yesterday that you weren't maybe expecting to see, go as crazy as they did across the 6 maps?
Hmm. I think I think really it was just how massive SSG were. I think G2, I expected to do well. They were surprisingly consistent, I think. Overall, though, I think everybody that did well, we kind of expected to do well to some extent. Things worked out about how we expected. It was more just well, everybody is, a league behind on SSG.
Yeah, and it's going to be great to see SSG pop off. I love watching that team. They are just crazy scary fraggers, and we already know what they can do, of course, in the lobby that they were in. But now, brand new mix, brand new lobby. We're gonna get to see what happens when they clash again with a lot of the big teams. We're gonna get SSG fighting NRG. We're gonna get TSM fighting C9. And speaking of C9 and CLG, who were kind of the edge teams of the day yesterday, they were doing some nasty stuff to the teams on the edge of ring, and especially on Stormpoint, but also on World's Edge. It was kind of that game plan that they're used to playing, but adapting it a little bit, adapting it to the new teams, adapting it to the new strategies. That is what I love to see. And another thing I love to see, the Bangalore that I think has been making waves here and there. I don't know if it's getting used as much in World's Edge, but on Stormpoint, it is definitely a scary pick.
Yeah, and that kind of comes from a little weird interaction on Bangalore's queue. If you pop it down right on top of yourself, it gives you a little bit more vision than it does for the opposing teams, and it has to be like directly at your feet. So it's a little bit weird. I'm kind of surprised it's still around, but it is one that teams are taking advantage of for the time being. I think Bangalore also, just with the smoke, you can get safer rotations just because you can smoke out opponents. That's one thing I don't see Bangalore's do enough. You need to smoke out your opponent, not just yourself, because you want to make sure that people don't see you and you can still see. But we'll see how many people are really going to run that Bangalore. I think definitely, like you said, Stormpoint, it is much more favored than it is on World's Edge. World's Edge will probably be seeing the same kind of, Gibby, Caustic, Valk, a little bit of crypto from TSM as we've been seeing. There's a lot of different, there's a couple of different legends that we see pretty consistently there.
And I love that you mentioned the crypto, because the crypto is definitely that legend that I love to see in the mix. We see it a lot in some of the other regions, not so much in NA, but it looks like everyone's kind of waking up to smell the roses that is the crypto drone, especially with the changes made, of course, to the EMP and to just the drone movement, making that character a lot more adaptable, a little bit less of a sit there and play video games on your phone while your team shoots guns. So definitely a really interesting dynamic that I love to watch. I love that you mentioned that TSM is playing it. I think I saw Torrent playing it as well. And weirdly enough, Furia isn't, or at least I didn't get to see as much of it yesterday. But Kick, of course, EU, very, very popular pick as well. So we're going to see
Mhm.
a little bit more crypto, a little bit more intel, a little bit more drones in our games for World's Edge.
Yeah, and this is, for people who haven't been paying attention, Crypto did get a couple of changes just to make him a little bit easier to use for just quick use of the drone. Now you don't have to go into the drone view. You can just toss out the drone, and it tosses it just far enough that you are only barely inside your own ultimate if you pop it at the same time. So if you pop the drone out without going into drone mode and pop the ult and back up, you're pretty much guaranteed to zap everybody in front of you. I think that really is a play that we could see being very useful and something that we wouldn't see from other crypto players before that change.
And I'm excited to see how that's going to tear things up in the later rings. But of course, with this format, we've got a second day of games. Yesterday, we had two full lobbies of 20 stacked teams. Now we're down to just a top 20 from those 40. So I'm curious to see if there's going to be any contested drops that we're going to want to keep our eyes on, because Lord knows people love to keep their POIs to themselves. And again, we're going to get to start seeing the dynamic when groups get mixed up. It's not going to be as clear. We're going to see some of the top teams just not want to give up their spot and fight for it. And we've seen what that can do to some tournament lives. Definitely some of the like Fragment East teams like
Mhm.
TSM that just aren't willing to give that up. I'm curious to know if that's going to happen here, or if maybe it got taken to DMs a little bit earlier in the day.
Yeah, we've definitely seen. I know on Stormpoint, there were teams that were a little bit unhappy with the fact that they were getting contested and having to deal with people kind of in their zones. But I think for the most part, we're going to know exactly where these teams are going to be landing. I know that there's a couple that are going to land together. Most likely, we're probably going to be seeing NRG and OA landing together. Harvester is also going to be contested with CLG and Xset, and Countdown by Nightmare and Furia. Stormpoint has just as many, if not more, contestants at the current spot. So we will see how that works out. We might just end up seeing a bunch of teams going down fairly early on.
And that's just how the cookie crumbles sometimes. It does make the game a little bit more open in the mid game, but we'll see if people commit to it. Of course, the first game is going to be kind of the make or break. Maybe after that, we'll see some teams adapt. But I want to give Kick one more shout out for really just adapting, right? Like they are not regularly playing with these teams. Yesterday, they just said, hey, give us Intel's POI. We'll take it. We'll make it work. And they made it work fantastically. They ended up just in fourth place, just outside of the top three, which is super impressive for a team that's just not used to the NA dynamic, not used to working with a lot of these POI claims, and really just understanding how the other teams in the region play.
Absolutely. I think honestly what is going to be interesting to me is just like right now Stormpoint, there's lots of players or lots of teams that are going to be landing close to each other or on top of each other. I'm interested to see, if somebody's going to swap out, cuz I know that a lot of these teams, they want to land alone. They want to be able to grab weapons and get ready for a game without having to deal with people just firing on them at just immediate drop. So it's possible that we see, well, we do have some information on where these teams will want to land. It's possible that they do end up wanting to switch things up and go someplace else just to avoid those early fights. So keep that in mind. If we do see somebody go someplace else, if we see staging ends up not contested or Harvester not contested in World's Edge, that's mostly just because these teams really do want to get a solid start for their games.
And talking about solid starts that require a lot of looting, we mentioned it yesterday, but Esports Arena definitely one of those teams that for a long time got a wide pick of POIs to themselves to get super looted up. It works with their playstyle on the edge, right? But maybe that's where they're going to lose a little bit of room. Maybe these teams are going to say, hey, I don't want to contest Countdown. I don't want to fight NRG right off drop. So maybe taking something like Dome or City. We will see that very soon here as we wait for players to get loaded in. But of course, this isn't just for the bragging rights of taking down Carnage Cup 3. We are playing for $10,000. So these teams are
Hmm.
definitely taking it serious. And it's also one of the last looks that we get to see for the ALGS to start next week. And here we go. Our first look at the dropship, our first look at the home base World's Edge.
Yeah, and like you said, it is for the $10,000 for first place here. We want to see what these teams are going to do. Last time, yesterday, it was just about getting in the top 10. That's not good enough today. These teams are fighting for those top 3 so that they can get some of that money.
And it is so stacked. I mean, just look at the tags. I don't think we even covered everything that we possibly could. But what we are going to cover here soon might be an early contest. And this is actually over at Epicenter. Here we see DA trying to figure it out, trying to get a little bit looted up before they have to deal with whatever other squad is on their backside.
Yeah, Complexity
Oh,
already getting a great knock here right out the gate. These early fights, so hectic.
and you don't want to fight Complexity on drop. If there was a squad you did not want to run into, it is them. And just like that, DA has been eliminated. Complexity with a great start to their map, and I think DA is going to be licking their wounds and reconsidering their drop plan.
Yeah, I mean, look, Epicenter is one of those ones that I'm actually surprised got contested. That's one that nobody seems to really want most of the time. Ooh, wait, Cloud9's actually here. What are they doing?
Ooh.
They go up higher. Go back to
It's
Yo,
never a better time for a third party, right? They're walking up. They've got a very slight shield advantage and maybe a little bit in terms of loot, but that is a crazy fast rotate. Maybe looking at the ring pull, they decided, hey, we might be able to fight these guys early. And C9 is definitely not afraid to fight, even if it's the likes of Complexity. So here they're getting set up, taking over this POI for the time being. I don't think they even get a beacon, so just the raw aggression to kick things off.
yeah, really interesting to see Cloud9 just say, "All right, let's contest this. This team's struggling. They're going to be going up against they just fought somebody and now we're just going to be in their way, just annoying as all heck." I don't know why they decided to do that instead of just landing up north where they usually do, up onto Climatizer. That is, their main spot that they want to be at. But I guess they heard the fire going down and they wanted to see if they could clean some things up.
Yep, it never hurts to pick up a stray kill here and there, but they're going to go back and they're going to loot very comfortably, though. Looking at this map feed, we can actually see that TSM, if that's what I'm seeing correctly. Yeah, they're just down below, so they don't really need to get involved at all. It's just kind of a chance at an isolated fight, if you will. So C9 getting looted up now as Complexity moves on over to their second part of their POI. They get all of Survey Camp. They get a crafter as well, so they're going to be feeling pretty good. Here we get to see Ghost also getting a little bit set up here, picking out the team that is coming on over from Geyser. That's going to be Torrent and Rambo's on the crypto. You'll love to see it.
Yeah. Pretty much what we kind of expected here. A good amount of crypto coming in. And also, just as a note, this ring, very, very south. So teams like C9 are going to have to cover a lot of ground pretty quickly. My experience with C9 having to move for these southern rings has not been positive for C9. So I'm interested to see, how that's going to work out. They're not exactly the greatest at making those really long rotations, especially when all of these other teams are already getting in and grabbing these spots over near Lava Siphon.
And of course, C9, one of those teams that plays off of momentum. If they can get some really good early fights and pick up some KP, it gets them fired up for the rest of their games. So hopefully they can make their way into this ring and get a good start to their games. Because again, we're locked and loaded for 6 games and not all of them on our World's Edge. So got to keep that mental up and definitely got to keep those shields up in Sentinel's case. 2 purples and a blue to their name. They're feeling pretty good here as the zone is pulling straight at them. I love watching Sentinels play in these zones as well because they are not afraid to bully teams. Here we see Senok putting down some early damage on this team, rotating from the center of the map.
Yeah, we've been seeing a lot of 30-30 action, actually. More than I am used to. As CLG's coming in here, they're going to be trying to contest this area, and Mamba dropping the ult so they can grab whatever loot's inside. We'll see if they actually want to fight this or if they just want to grab the loot and peace out. But right now, they can just pick and choose their battles.
And again, maybe you see this in a ranked gaming, you are immediately pushing that. CLG knows, though, they have good protection from a lot of the LOS. Of course, Sentinel's not going to overcommit to a fight here. They have a decent spot to continue to bully a lot of teams, honestly, and get Senox's shields up. So CLG with a decent play there, but they won't be able to hold that for too much longer. Down to 18 squads now as Ring 1 closes.
Yeah, Ring 1 still working its way. TL, as we do check in, still running that Mad Maggie. Nocturnal running it. Ooh. So going for that for their ground mobility. And already pretty nicely looted up here as they did get to Countdown pretty safely, but they do have squads up and around them that they're going to have to work through. As we can see, Furia is over to their left. Yeah, they're going to be popping that Valk ult, just trying to make sure that they can rotate very safely. I think this is a great opportunity to use it. Make sure that you know where teams are. You can, I guess, land on them if you want, or no, they're just going to be going. Hard to tell from this angle.
Oh, yeah. They definitely spot out Space Station there. Furia taking their time to loot while TL starts to move on over towards what looks to be the G2 up on that choke. They're going to get a little bit of time here to pick up the scraps while we take a look at closer to the likely end zone of this map. Sentinel still holding it down, but also NM here. There's Krizik holding it down. They are not going to be moving from that spot for quite a while as this ring is starting to get crowded.
Yeah, lots of places to hold here, but the main areas are being picked up here. RNG, Sentinels, they're grabbing these nice big buildings for themselves, but those are not the only spots that are going to be available. There's still some buildings up on the other side. You can see C9 hanging out on the outside of the ring, trying to just craft up before they move in to Fragment. This is kind of what I expected. C9 just kind of moves slowly through these, and sometimes that can really bite them. So keep your eyes on them and how they're actually going to play this out. They're going to be getting into this zone very late, which means they are going to have to contest people for a lot of these spots.
And that's just how the cookie crumbles when you play like C9. They like to pick off those teams that are late to zone. They're just later to zone so they can pick you off from the back. That is a strategy that is hot and cold. Sometimes it works and they kick it off great, but sometimes it doesn't work quite as well. We check out TSM here in Harvester, also getting pretty set up. They're in a slightly more comfortable position than C9, to say the least. And they're going to continue to craft up and get
Ooh.
loaded, while SSG actually
Uh-oh,
walking up with a
sneaky
bit of a
time.
rat strat.
I love this. I love that SSG play like this. This is so freaking annoying.
It's quite the strategy, not quite working out as well as they'd hoped though. Frex almost going down, and TSM hits the go button, and now they're the ones hunting what might be 3 pieces of really juicy KP from the lobby leaders from yesterday. And here we go for Hulk, putting down quite a bit of damage, already putting that player onto Flesh. 29 Flesh. In fact, the bubble already committed, but the gas is there to stave them off just a second longer.
Yeah, gas will push them back a little bit, so it is going to be them just popping away. Frex is okay. Dropped, also able to get out of that fight, but you can see after those shots come through, TL hearing the fire go down, they're thinking we can maybe pick some people off here.
TL smells the blood in the water, but not overcommitting to this quite yet. TL, another team that often ends up playing on the far reaches of the edge. Of course, that Trials POI often leaves them with not the greatest positions in southern zones. Furia, though, already well into the south area of the zone and picking up some knocks on the way. Big pump there from Zera and able to finish that off. G2 off the lobby by the hands of Furia.
That is wild. G2 is usually really good in those kind of one-on-one team fights there. And unfortunately, we don't know how that fight started out, but Furia able to come in and just knock G2 out really early, going out in 18th.
Furia now, that is definitely not a good look for G2.
It's not a good look for G2, but it's great for Furia as TL also trying to pull what SSG did, sneaking around. I really like this. I love that teams are just sneaking up on a lot of other teams and trying to get a nice advantage. So many times you see people just run around and give away that they are coming up on somebody by just running and being loud. When you move this slowly, you can really catch people off guard.
And it's actually really important for them not to reveal their position either. They don't want to give up their rotation to these teams that might be looking on them. So playing it safe, playing it slow, and all 3 ultimates are on deck. So TL might choose to get frisky, but for the time being, they're going to chill. They're going to just look on over towards Furia's end as TSM starts to make their rotation deep here into the middle of the map. Furia, though, not waiting a second longer, and already the fight breaks out. Pander's a little bit lower there than they would have liked, and TL on the front foot of the fight here, backing up just a little bit as the ultimate is committed from Furia. They will hold on for now, but not for much longer if this continues.
Ooh, Nocturnal taking a bunch of shots. He does have the gold armor, so he can heal up. Shots coming down from Gildersids. Gildersids is actually doing really well. Let's check the nade. Not gonna happen. Ooh, who did they catch down there, actually?
I think it might have been Panders there who went down after a lot of damage was dealt, ends up dying to the lava itself. So there is Panders finished off. It might be another player actually that they caught back there.
That's
so not a good plan for Furia here as they completely fall apart.
Ooh, yeah, that's very unfortunate there. Easy pickup here as Zera goes down and Pan go down. So Furia, really unfortunate start there, at least going into this next round. Looked really good when they got G2, and then they just overforced on TL, and TL turned it around on him.
And that's what, like, just really, it can happen to anyone, right? This lobby is so stacked, and all of these teams are so good in the team fight scenario. So TL picks up their KP and makes their rotation as well. But again, another team that's making their way in late, another team that's going to rely on their Valkyrie to put them in a decent position for the next rotation. This is just the first ring that they're making it into, or the second, excuse me. They have another one to go just to get through that choke, as this likely, very, very likely pulls Social on site.
Yeah, we'll see how that works out. Complexity hanging around on this side here, looking to maybe try and take something. I'm kind of curious. This is where Valk rotations start. If you have tons of teams, you still have 17 squads in this smaller ring. We're seeing, you know, a lot of teams give up the fact that they are there, making it very clear where they are, and you're going to get so many shots. When you have like 5 teams shooting at you in the air, some of those bullets are going to hit, and it also makes it hard to find a spot to get into when you are up in the air and there's all of these places that are already taken. So Valk starts to run into some issues here when you're just purely relying on that to rotate.
Why rely on natural cover when you could just put the cover down yourself? Frex on the Caustic. Definitely a pick that has been reduced in popularity, but a lot of squads still making it work. Of course, you saw Esports Arena using it for quite a while as well, hanging on to the hope coming from the gas man. But NRG in a cart now are going to have to probably stave off at least a couple squads. There are going to be a lot of teams wanting to look down this siphon side. And those doors that Sentinels were holding earlier are going to become a hot commodity for a lot of these teams.
Yeah. Ooh.
Oh.
Complexity knocking down. Oh, they're getting pushed here.
And how did that not stick? I don't think it made it in. So there's the bubble and double bubble trouble as both teams kick off the fight. Complexity on the front end, though, doing a lot more damage earlier. Shiny almost going down and does indeed go down, gets traded out. And now Monsoon follows suit. It's all up to Reptar. And I don't know how many members are left, but they're getting shot at by a different team. And Team Liquid holds on for now. It's a 1v1 situation. The Valkyrie here coming out from Gale. Gonna have to try and make it happen. And they don't, as Ghost walks up for the third party to clean this up.
Yeah, Ghost almost assuredly going to be picking this one up pretty easily there. And yeah, there is TL going down. Complexity, they still do need to find that last, or they have one player left. Ghost still chasing him down. You got to be careful how far they chase this, because you might just run into another squad. Yeah, Valk going to be running into another. So Complexity are going to survive for just a little bit now, as Ghost are going to have to hang out, maybe make their way back over to where they were to grab some of those death boxes.
There's a chance they might be looking at some of the spots that we talked about earlier, but NRG has to make their way up from Car. Furia already taking this choke on the west side of this entrance, and they're going to be looked at by at least 100 Thieves, and Space Station Gaming might also be pulling up the rear, so this could get messy. And there we see 100 Thieves holding down this corner. They know they have to cover their back and just to be sure that they can walk forward without the danger of a team like Furia walking up, and already Furia getting bullied.
Yeah, this is a bit unfortunate here.
Oh, look at those cracks. Oh my goodness. And that is what happens when you have 3 nades and a dream. 3 nades and position, actually. They just continue to deal damage left and right. The bubble already going down and the defensive bombardment. And 100 Thieves might just pull the trigger here. They're walking up. Vaxlon looking for an angle with the wingman. The 2x wingman is an absolutely insane decision, but making it work. They pull back for now, though, as there's a lot of other squads looking to potentially get involved. Use Renegades.
Renegades hanging just up above 100 Thieves, so if 100 Thieves hard commit to this, they are going to end up in a lot of pain. But on the other end there, you're seeing Furia, unfortunately, just getting two-timed. Tons of people just getting on them, and I don't think they're going to be getting out of this one alive.
There's a bubble. They're trying to hold on to this as much as they can. Here we see Renegades flexing the madness pick as well. Great to see it. It's so rough to be in Furia's position right now. They're still alive, though, and you got to give them props for that, but who knows how long that'll last. Renegades does have to move, and of course, so does 100 Thieves. They are on the Ashe composition, though, so Anmu might be able to make a move here, and unsure if Vaxlon has the ultimate available. There we see, yep, they have both ultimates, so they might have to make a quick and dirty decision here. Pulling Fear is fun, but not if you're not in ring.
Yeah, they could absolutely make the rotation here if needed. They could use the Valk here. They could use the Ashe ult. There's lots of options available for them. That's what you get when you have both Ashe and Valk. So this is fine for them. They can hang on to this as long as possible, and they can really just bully Furia as they are trying to get into the ring. Great move here by 100 Thieves. They're going to use the bubble to stay alive and maybe try and get into one of these buildings, but oh no, here comes the fuse ult.
And that is just the worst you want to see when you put down your bubble. And Vaxlon now getting looked at left and right, able to walk down though with that Valkyrie movement and survive for the time being. But 100 Thieves looking worse for wear as Vaxlon burns and trying to get the bat off, but now 2 members and Vaxlon with a sliver of health left, holding onto the hope of 100 Thieves, and it won't come through as Dexterity walking up with the fuse to absolutely grieve every other team on the map.
Yeah, it looked like a good rotation at first, but everybody was watching 100 Thieves move around, so it was an easy pickup for everybody. Once that Mortar Flare came in, and Valk was the only one that was able to easily get out of that, it just went downhill from there, as Torrent also getting hit by some Gibby ult coming through. They have tons of people up and around them, but right now they are in a really solid position. You can see this next ring is going to be pulling over towards Dome just in front of them. CLG fighting them, though.
Oh, and CLG falling apart here as they get looked at by both C9 and Torrent. Torrent able to hold on to their spot, and CLG is eliminated. 10 squads left as we roll into ring number 5. 58 seconds left. Cloud9 has walked all the way up from the top of the map and find themselves here completely blinged out, 2 gold shields to their name, and they're running that horizon that is oh so dangerous once these spots get crowded. Ghost also holding on to a few placement points and might continue to do so, as Impulse just big living trying to hold on.
Yeah, SSG also just in a really solid spot. As expected, SSG just kind of does this. They just get into good spots and make it so terrible to deal with. Oh, Sentinel's getting sent on here by this Gibby ult. You can see Zach on C9 just hanging around below them. They're thinking about taking this fight as another squad moves up.
And the shred from Zach Mazer, as Dexterity also walking up to claim a little bit of this KP, and Sentinels dropping extremely quickly in the Dexterity C9 sandwich. And now Cloud9 has to think about how they're going to walk in. We know there's at least one member on the left that might ruin their hopes and dreams, and of course the team on height. Not sure who's sitting up there, and it's Space Station Gaming, of course. And there is the Singularity, not going to live very long though, unfortunately. Might have not been enough space for C9, as Drop putting out so much damage. The charge rifle here, only 8 shots left, but making them count.
Yeah, holy, Drop just does so much work with this charge rifle, which amazes me because I hate that gun. But C9 also getting a little bit rough here because Zach Mazer just got caught out there. DXT gonna get eliminated now, as Cloud9 just gonna hide in these boxes.
Oh, and the wrap from behind is about to grief them as well. It looks like C9 won't be long for this world, as SSG finishes off Cloud9. Meanwhile, Torrent picking up another fight, but SSG sitting on 3 red shields and plenty of space and loot from these boxes to work with. So SSG looking pretty happy with their position at the moment.
Yeah, Torrent hanging out here, but they are getting sent on.
Worked on.
Nightmare up in this building here, able to get some really nice shots all around. This is a great spot for them. They just need to be able to rotate out of it when the time comes.
And they have the Caustic to work with as well. So Furia ended up holding along a lot longer than I expected. But here we are as Nightmare continues to hold this position. Krizik on that Caustic might be huge for this team. And Space Station as well, rocking the rocking the Caustic, the Stinky Man. Really just a lot of presence on the map right now.
Yeah, SSG hanging out around here, just looting up before this final ring starts closing. We have Torrent, we have SSG, and I believe we have Nightmare. So these are our top 3 right now. Torrent looking to be in a good spot in terms of where the ring is coming, but they don't have too much cover, and both Nightmare and SSG are going to be keeping their eyes on them.
And at this point, we're just waiting for the bubbles to get through them, because these squads will have to move before Torrent, and they will have to likely fight each other. So Torrent can play this position, but it is not going to be easy. Unsure if they have that EMP on deck as well, because that could make a huge difference, as Drop puts down the defensive bombardment.
No.
And here we go. This could be the start of this push. Space Station Gaming dropping down. Space Station Gaming playing as much cover as they can to wait out Torrent and to wait out Nightmare. Nightmare, of course, doing the same. But here we go. Walking up now, committing the bubble, and the double bubble is down. There's a full team fight here for Torrent. SSG, though, looking really great here, putting a lot of damage with the Peacekeeper. Ooh. And all of their members looking decently healthy for having just taken a fight. And now it's up to SSG to fend off the defensive bombardment and the likes of Nightmare.
Yeah, Nightmare coming in. They may pull this one out, and they will. They are the first champion of the day. And that is probably to be as expected there. They waited, they bided their time, and came in afterwards to pick up the win. SSG, I think honestly, they made the right call there. Remember, the difference between first and second place is 3 points. So if you take out somebody as you go into second, you are making just as much points as if you tried to wait it out. SSG saw their opportunity to go in, take those points, and do really well, get those final points that they needed. Really great job by them, and I think they will be, just right up there alongside Nightmare.
You'll love to see it. They did the math, and the math was clean there. They are able to pick up 3 KP from Torrent. Shout out to Nightmare, though, because we didn't talk about them a lot really in the pregame. Again, just another squad that I love to see flipping the tables, right? It's not the C9s, it's not the TSMs, but Nightmare, man, they looked really good. They held on to that spot for so long. We saw them when Furia was first getting griefed on by 100 Thieves over on the western side, and they held on for dear life with the Caustic and, of course, with some fantastic positioning and gunplay, able to clean it up, which is going to look really good as we wait for this leaderboard to show up.
Yeah, we'll see how that works out in terms of the points. But I mean, Nightmare and SSG definitely looking to be in that top spot there. Torrent did do really well. They were kill leaders for a while. So Torrent really looking like they could be contenders as well. But, we're looking at teams like G2 or, just TSM who went out pretty early as well. What is going on with those teams? Because these are teams that we really expected to see up at the top. And TSM, we did see yesterday, was very hit or miss. G2 was very consistent. So to see them go down so early in a way that really was preventable does open up questions and concerns about how the rest of the day is going to work out.
Oh, 100%. But I'm sure they'll pick it up and they're going to have to just get ready because they can see these teams want it. A lot of these teams want it. And World's Edge, of course, a very well studied map. All of these strategies are good on paper, but when it gets into a gunfight, it is all about the clutch up, right? It looks like Fury was able to clutch up against G2. G2, such a talented fighting team. Triple roller, of course, terrifying to run into, but they ran into it face first. And Torrent making that crypto work fantastically. Didn't get to see a lot of that EMP work being done towards the end, as of course we were focusing on some of those squads like C9 that play on the edge, and they were playing that edge to a T. They were able to farm up so much KP, even though they didn't get the highest placement. Zach Mazer in the game able to just eventually walk in, bullying Sentinels, and of course bullying at least one other squad out of position. They were looking pretty solid there, all things considered.
Yeah, they were looking really good. And, times, like we said, it can be very, wishy washy in terms of does it work out for them. They did really well in terms of third party and getting a couple of KP for themselves. But like you said, they did get a little bit caught out at the end there when they did just have Zach Mazer get too far forward, picked off, and from there it just kind of fell apart for them. So I'd like to see what happens, when they can stick together a little bit more, as I do believe we have the leaderboard ready and could pull that up on screen.
And there we go. Space Station Gaming cementing their spot in first place, even though Nightmare won the lobby. It looks like the math really checked out there. So they take second for the time being, and Torrent comfortable in third with 14 points. And here we get to see the middle of the stack. That is where I love to look because right now it's anyone's game still,
Hmm.
right? One big game can make all the difference. I'm sure SSG had big games yesterday. Team Liquid, we saw with a 25-point banger on Storm Point. So these tables can get turned in a blink of an eye. But RNG here, dexterity, complexity kick. I mean, a lot of these squads that went down a little bit earlier were still able to find some KP and find some decent positioning.
Absolutely. And, we do see Furia and C9 also up there as well. And definitely within striking distance of that first place if they have a great game. SSG, though, you can see it worked out for them. Everything just taking that second place, but getting those extra 3 KP, very crucial in netting them first place going into game 2. And it's looking like SSG are basically on form from what they were doing yesterday.
Yeah, they're looking really dominant. SSG looking really good in that game, able to do the math just right to get on top, but they will have to keep it up because if we look at the bottom of the leaderboard, there's a lot of squads that we expected to do a lot better than this. I
Hmm.
mean, TSM, of course, NRG, Esports Arena, some of the favorites for a lot of just the ALGS season that we were taking a look at. Even 100 Thieves here sitting a little bit lower than I expected them after their performance yesterday. They have a lot of ground to make up, but they have plenty of games to prove it. Of course, you got 2 more games on World's Edge. What's going to be the strat here, Thousand Eyes? Now that we've seen a little bit of the contest, do you think people are going to adjust to the changes in the drop spots, or do you think people are just going to keep contesting their games away?
I'd like to see them switch things up, but in my experience, that doesn't really happen. A lot of these teams, especially when it's only 3 games on one map, they're very stubborn in that they want to land on a spot. We'll see if DA are going to switch things up after their rough epicenter drop, or if they are going to just continue to try and fight this and try and make up their losses, get that 3 KP, and see what happens from there. I would love to see them go someplace else, but the question is really, where are they going to go? Because a lot of the great spots are already taken. You're kind of opting into a lesser drop spot when you are giving that up.
And hint, hint, if you're gonna contest a team, it probably shouldn't be complexity. I don't know, just a little bit of a of some advice there. Complexity, a really scary team. Of course, every team in this lobby knows how to fight, but complexity definitely one of those scary teams that is able to clutch up. I mean, we saw it with the TSM fight. They were able to get a really nice engage and just keeping it up so close. Gilderson's doing their best to pick up that fight from the ashes, but it just did not happen. So again, interested to see if those spots will continue to be contested. And it's really hard, right? You put in so much work. The coaches, of course, shout out to the coaches, don't get enough credit. They put in a lot of work as well to figure out these rotations. They know where these rings pull and where they might be able to run to with each ring. So it's hard. You really just don't want to give up that drop spot when you know how you want to walk around the map.
Absolutely. We'll see what's going to happen there as we are getting ready for game 2. So everybody sit tight. We will be getting there eventually, as I do believe we're actually going to be going over in there right now. So things have loaded up.
I've
A
been
nice
back
little
on the
south to
spot
north
for
here.
4 months' intuition.
Great drop spots open for everybody, and we will get things underway.
And say what you will about World's Edge, but the accessibility of your drop spot is definitely a huge factor. So teams like Torrent, who had to make it all the way to Overlook, probably not loving this flight path as much, but they'll make do, as will every other team. So let's check out these potential contests here. We get to see Esports Arena on the bottom right. Looking like they might be getting this to themselves this time. They did go out a lot earlier than I expected, and honestly didn't even get to see who they fought. So here's to see if there's a contester. It looks like a lot of name tags. Time they did go out a lot earlier than I expected, and honestly didn't even get to see who they fought. So here's to see if there's a contester. It looks like a lot of name tags.
Yeah, lots of name tags going up there. We'll see how Epicenter works out. You can see Kick and TSM taking Fragment West and East respectively. And actually, wait, is... Okay, no. Okay. I was looking down. Dome is doing really good. That is, that's got some fights going on as well. I saw a C9 tag, realized it was knocked, and then had to readjust myself for a second.
And looking at the kill feed here, it looks like Nightmare is making a nightmare of things for Esports Arena. But CLG, we get to check them out here. It looks like they were checking out a spot around them. This is definitely often contested. I believe they contested it with Xset previously, so unsure if that's still a thing. Here we get to watch Aim God and the rest of that crew, of course, Krizik and the big Poyo, making this a really difficult time for Esports Arena, as you should. Esports Arena, a terrifying team to play against. It looks like Aim God might be a little bit further up than they would have liked, and already taking a lot of damage as Krizik goes down.
Yeah, Nightmare getting really iffy here. Dome's gonna come out, and Aim God also extremely low and needs to heal up. So Nightmare just trying their best to reset, but Esports Arena are doing pretty well in terms of their health here. Another gas trap's gonna come out. Skittle Cakes trying to fight this. There we go. And Valk already went down. Gibraltar down. Nightmare go down very early as our first squad, and Esports Arena will get all the loot in Dome for themselves.
And I think this might have been what happened first game right here. We see shooting bodies, a little bit of disrespect, but yeah, it looks like this was actually the contest that we saw in the first game that left ESA with close to 0 points. Here we see another contest, a little bit early of a rotation contest instead, I believe, as NRG was walking from a different direction. It's like NRG not getting too frisky. There's already 3 squads here, Thousand Eyes.
Yeah, this is kind of funky that we have so many people up and around here. Furia popping in to get some damage down, but already with 1 KP on the board, you can see DA, they did try and land someplace else, and it did not work out for them.
And NRG, the patience they're paying off in stride as they are able to knock one member, of course, Tech, the IGL of Furia, going down really early, and they are able to clean off that kill. So polished off is one member of Furia. NRG, again, just great patience, not shooting their guns as they saw Furia chasing down the other squad, and they get a KP for their troubles.
Yeah, right now, Furia just hoping that they can keep themselves alive right now. They need to get that banner for Tech if they want to stay competitive in this, but NRG do not want to allow them to do that. They really want to push this, but it's a little bit difficult to push the Fuse who's raining down the damage from above.
And that's just how the cookie crumbles sometimes, but Rocket taking a little bit more damage than they probably would have liked, and the fight continues here. Definitely getting a little bit of a boon with that knuckle cluster that continues to just deal consistent damage and honestly just tilt me off the face of the earth when I get hit by it. But yeah, Tech definitely not in the best position. And that is 86, followed by another clean 86. It looks like NRG is just going to finish this one off.
Okay.
The double headshot there from the wingman just makes this fight easy peasy for NRG.
Yeah, now that's actually kind of big there. Furia going down immediately. 100 Thieves also in a fight. So many teams are just fighting early on. What is happening?
Everyone woke up and chose Carnage today as Space Station Gaming looking on to the squad here, trying their best to maybe craft up and get some intel from the beacon on Harvester, but 100 Thieves is not going to get that for free, at least. Space Station behind them and at least one other squad in front.
Yeah, 100 Thieves still sitting on the outside here. And now they are considering moving up. This isn't going to be the easiest push here because they are just very exposed. I don't know if they can really do this. I feel like they just need to rotate out.
And they don't have the Ash Portal quite yet, but it might be coming up just in time for them to make this decision. And that's the buzzing that you hate to hear. 3 crypto drones, baby. That is 3 drones, and that is an EMP already.
Oh,
so a bit of an engagement here, and it looks like they haven't quite gotten spotted out, so they can hold this position just a little bit longer. Space Station, though, might be the ones to take an engagement here, as Harvester definitely an interesting spot to fight, but they need to be careful because the third parties can come from every direction under the sun.
RNG, one of the teams inside Harvester right now. And they're just going to be hanging out, waiting for their moment. Poke when they can.
And there we see the shield going down. It might not have been in time, though, and indeed it wasn't. Of course, dropping the shield early enough before the EMP means you don't lose those shields.
No, you
and
do.
This is really important because... oh, do you still?
Yeah,
I thought you could drop it in time.
They changed that.
Oh.
It shocks the shields on the ground, too, because it was a little bit busted to do so. As you saw there, the shield did get dropped and picked up, and it had to be charged up again, so... Unfortunate.
And that actually picks at your heals, which is not a good sign.
Exactly.
Even though these teams got to loot up a chunk of a full POI at least, every single cell counts towards these late games, and it looks like Torrent is the one that is making the situation rough here for 100 Thieves. And Renegades as well.
Yeah, but 100 Thieves haven't been focused in any of this. It feels like after that first initial poke there, all the teams were more focused on fighting each other than 100 Thieves, so they may be able to sneak around and get in or out depending on what they want to do. NRG were catching up here after their fight over near Landslide, getting the loot inside of the little safe here.
Treasure trove.
Yeah. Getting really nicely set up here. As you can see, this Devotion fully kitted with the turbocharger. They've got full ammo set up and full shields. This is a team that is looking to go really far this time around.
And we know how dangerous Sweet is as an IGL with the macro consistency. Honestly, a really scary team you don't want to run into. Another one of those teams that is holding a very similar spot to game number 1 is Sentinels, but they are going to have to move, of course, pulling a little bit more north than previous. It looks like the second ring here is just west of Lava Siphon, so it'll be interesting to see as teams move in. I think Harvester is going to get even more popular here.
Yeah, it's gonna get very, very populated here for the rest of the teams. Sentinel's gonna be moving in here. I don't think there's any teams they need to worry about too much here. They do have a lot of space to work with, so things looking fine for them, as they are also another team that's pretty nicely kitted up and will be just moving slowly, picking up the loot as they can. So Sentinels, we'll see. I believe they're going to be going for that. The
Beacon.
the
Right
beacon.
up
That's, oh my goodness. You know, you'd think as a caster I could speak.
Oh, it happens. But SSG still holding down the same position. Another team we haven't talked about in a little bit is TL, who somehow found their way even further south than some of these other squads, even though they're walking all the way from Trials. So here we get to see them walk in, and they're going to start looking at Harvester as well. They have at least a couple of squads to worry about on the right. And of course, Harvester very, very dense with squads already. So chilling for now, though. Nocturnal, of course, still on the Maggie, which you love to see it. I wonder if it'll come to play a little more in this game. We didn't get to see a lot of that action in the previous round. And yeah, we'll see if they can hold it down. Torrent needs to hold it down for dear life as they are sitting on white still.
Absolutely. TSM, another team too that is just sitting on the whites, and this is what we saw from TSM when they weren't doing well last time around. They were just they were always in the zone. You can see they're very deep inside the next zone, but they don't have shields. They don't have the ability to fight if somebody shows up. It feels like they've just constantly been playing too safe, and that is very concerning. As yeah, close that door, buddy. You want to be able to do that. He's going to be just checking around here to see who else is up in this area. Maybe just pop the ult for some poke damage. I'm very concerned here because this is exactly what we saw from TSM when they didn't succeed.
Yeah, and that's just how it goes. Sometimes you have to make either a meta call or a lobby call. Interesting to see, of course, how off of that rate that worked so well for them in the ALGS playoffs. But there's a lot of different strategies that these teams can employ. Of course, they are pro teams that know what they're doing. And NRG definitely one of them, but they had to pop that dome pretty early here and commit to the port. And there's a classic tried and true Wraith port underneath the bubble. But they might be getting bullied by Team Liquid here, who we did see up on the train tracks just a little bit ago.
Yeah, NRG gonna heal back up and be fine, but they are getting poked out a little bit. They do need to move just a bit to get into this next ring, but you can see it's not going to be moving too much even into the next ring after that, so they should be fine. It's really just if they are going to be able to handle the amount of people that are already inside, because all the good spots are starting to get taken up as everybody wants to get into these rings early.
Yep, and here we see NRG using that ultimate there from the Valkyrie to get a slightly better position here, at least from where they were before, taking a little bit of damage, but they will be fine just for right now. And this hide up here, definitely a nice spot to play, but not if it's contested. And it looks like that squad didn't even bother with a fight. They're already running, using the Ashboard defensively to get their one member away from NRG. Curious to know who that is. It might be TL if I'm not mistaken, but we'll get to see here soon as NRG claims the spot.
Yeah, they're in a really okay spot here, but it is... Oh, they're just going to be poking out here. This rock is great to hold, but it's not exactly solid cover. So you can see they want to move forward, but the question is, how are they going to be able to do so? They've already expended the Valk ult. They're going to try and poke down and maybe see if they can full-on engage after burning through some of these shields, but it's G2 that they're fighting right now, and you can see 6 shield bats on the Ashe alone, so there is a lot that is available for G2 to just keep poking this out and build up their own shields.
There we go. And I got a little bit of clarification there. So apparently dropping the shields doesn't give Crypto the damage. So that's the one change. I get it now. But in any case, G2 here trying to defend off of this spot. And they're getting bombarded, so gonna walk it back up. But NRG here, full aggression time as Nathan takes almost a full crack. But Cloud9 getting involved from behind, and this is tragic here for NRG as one goes down. Devo. And the Devo there to try and fend them off as well. Cloud9 not getting a free set of KP here, and it looks like they're just gonna hold off for now as they have another squad to deal with at G2.
Yeah, it's Cloud9 are just gonna back out, but they've got the upper hand here. They have one team in the middle, and it is... Oh, they're dropping for this. They want to take this hard.
Yep, they're not afraid to fight. Of course, Zach and Naughty dealing quite a bit of damage, trying to hold it down. Albralele as well. They do have a defensive bombardment still on deck, so they can hold it just a little bit longer. But they have to make a decision about their rotation as well. Of course, with the Valkyrie, they have a little bit of time to wait and make that decision. But G2 still holding down this rock for dear life.
Yeah, and you can see C9 are getting pushed up a little bit here from TL. They're coming around on the outside. C9 gonna be just okay for now. But it is they're in the position that we just saw G2 fighting against, rather, just earlier on. G2 can just hold this as long as possible. C9 playing edge, this is the risk that you take. And they need to be able to move forward here and push G2 back. I don't think G2 wants to give this up, though.
And if they're able to keep this back clear, it does mean that they have a little bit more of a comfortable rotation just walking up to that next choke. But when you have a C9 on your back, you better keep them there or you better get them on out of there. So for the time being, just dealing damage. And this is kind of just the stalemate that we often get to see from some of these edge teams that aren't willing to give this up. So as we wait, I think something's got to give, and it might just be a Valkyrie ult from one of these teams.
It might be, but honestly, I feel like G2 can just hold this as long as they want because they are in the ring. C9 are the ones who need to make a move here as the Valk tactical will hit. Torrent also in a fight in the middle of Harvester.
And it looks like they got aped on, but able to defend from the likes of Ghost. So they're going to recover. They're going to pick up even better shields than they had before. Of course, you saw him on 2 whites not long ago. So Torrent continues to hold the bottom side of Harvester. They're feeling pretty happy here as they get kind of just a free med delivery coming from Ghost. Unfortunate to see them go out early, but Cloud9 not as lucky here. This fight has gotten a lot closer than they would have expected, and now playing the shield is the Valkyrie, but it's not enough, and G2 losing out on that fight. Cloud9 clutches up.
He's so low. That's so unfortunate for G2. That is the second game they've gone down so early, and C9 just barely clutching it out, getting inside the ring. That is massive for C9, but you have to be looking at that saying, we just got lucky, because State Audi was on literal, just a tiny sliver of HP.
And this is just how it goes, right? These teams are both so talented that every single team fight comes down to just the last shred of health. So great clutch up from C9, and those are the kinds of fights that they need to take if they want to catapult themselves forward in the standings, not just with points, but also with that momentum that they need. TSM, though, still sitting on 2 white shields and needs to find something here to get those up, maybe find a fight, or maybe just hold on for right now, as Optimal Ambition down a member. A little bit better on the shield department, but not so much on the personnel.
Yeah, they're hanging out here. Really good spot for themselves, but you can see they are just stuck on the 2, and they only have the blue shields. This feels like it's just going to be a please don't shoot at us kind of game. And hang out just as long as possible. They do have another squad in that building alongside them, as Sentinel's also in the middle of a fight right now. Their Gibby is down, which is not what you want to see, and they may just need to give him up.
And 14 squads left means that there is not a lot of space left to play as we get closer to this 4th ring. Again, every ring just makes it more and more difficult for these teams to get a comfortable spot to poke out and survive. So Sentinel's now going to have to survive with 1 member down, and you hate to see it be the Gibby, because that defensive bombardment and the bubble, of course, so clutch in team fights. So they'll be looking to just hold on for right now. They want to avoid fighting as long as they can. Without access to that bubble, it's going to be a lot more difficult, and of course a man down doesn't help either. Xset,
a team that we have not seen too much today, getting a rotation in with the Wraith. We'll be able to do so safely, as they are just gonna I'm pretty sure they've got the team right in front of them.
Oh no, that team was ratting up for dear life, but it is not quite the best spot for them to do that. And just like that, they're going to claim some KP for themselves, but continues to get rained down with those missiles coming from the Valkyrie, and Cloud9 now gets a pretty decent spot playing this rock.
Yeah, Cloud9 took out DXT, and we saw 100 Thieves go out, so we're down to 12 squads as round 4 is going to be closing. That high ground is going to be very highly contested here. As you can see, it's right in the middle of the ring, but it is getting just pincered by these two hills. So you can see the nades coming through, the fire coming down. It doesn't provide as much cover as you might think based on the outside trajectory of those hills.
Here we get to see a minute and 17 left of this next ring, and look at how close this is getting. Kick loses one member. They haven't gotten eliminated though, so they will likely be able to pick them up, but not if this team on the backside has anything to say about it. So trying to just stabilize here, and this is about to break out like crazy. 10 squads left. Crypto drones already flying as well. TSM looking for the intel and potentially looking for an ultimate to get at least one member shields up if they can. And look at how many squads are chilling in here. They pick out Kick as Complexity also moves into this ring.
Yeah, Complexity getting in there. This is a really interesting ring because it's just right on that building that we said wasn't the greatest to hold up top. So these teams on the hills are going to have to move in. TL also hanging out just outside here, not looking great in the health department, and they are moving through with a bunch of teams firing at them.
Of course, that was actually really close to the spot where Xset was sitting just previously. Imperial Hal able to get up those shields just a little bit, but still not in the greatest situation. The drone is available as well in case they need to move. But for right now, they are just playing tower defense. They have a good spot that they got pretty early in the game. They have, of course, at least one squad to worry about on top. And yeah, they're just big chilling, man. We're getting in the armchair, just ripping up a can of Coke and just chilling. Big chilling.
Yeah, for right now, but it's really going to be tough when one of these teams decides to push in on them. They don't have something like the Caustic to make this fight more in their favor despite the shield difference, so they can't just hold teams off as well. They can just keep poking with the crypto ult, but it's gonna get really iffy as soon as one of those teams drop in on them.
Yep, and here Cloud9 trying to recover the best they can, but there's the crypto ult with the bubble. They have just enough time to recover, and these bats are probably going to all go off. You have to worry about Complexity up on the height though, and of course
they're going
the
for
inside taken, and they're just going for this. There is the singularity and a lot of damage being pumped out by C9. They are able to take this height for the time being. Maybe one member getting away from Complexity, and they drop down as Cloud9 takes the spot.
Yeah, Cloud9 don't want to chase it though because they know there's a lot of teams that are going to be fighting down there. They don't want to get too into that. They still have 2 members Complexity, but it's not looking good right now.
It's a lot of damage, and this is again just a spot that has a lot of LOS for so many teams. So they're just going to hold the door, maybe try to get a bat off, and that's not going to be the case. Esports Arena not letting them get away quite for free. So yeah, Complexity going down, and Esports Arena does have Skittle Cakes on the Caustic, which means they have some pretty good staying power for these spots in the late game ring. They are just going to fight though, pick up some KP, because why not? And there it is, that crypto getting taken out. Kick getting taken out as well, and it'll be an NA winner, at least guaranteed for this game. Esports Arena cleans that one up.
Yeah, Esports Arena cleaning that up, and they do have TSM nearby. TSM actually getting some shields now. You can see Hal picked up the red, Rep's got the purple. So doing a little better now, and they still have a bunch of ammo to work through. They know that they've got another team out there, and they're just going to keep poking through. Look at the damage from Hal.
That is crazy. They do have to force that bubble out, or rather that bubble gets forced out. So now backing up a little bit, the Caustic Gas will open up a little bit of room as they make this push onto TSM. They put down the drone to get that ultimate on deck, slow them down just a little bit. And now the full engage as Rest walks up, not finding too many pumps on that first player, but does find a lot on the other. And Verhulst now has to clean up this fight. There is the Fist of Fury, and Esports Arena cleaning it up. Knocked diff indeed, as they actually just wiped TSM after what looked like a rough engagement from them.
Yeah, and once again, a really close fight there, and they'll be able to pick people up as final round is closing. Cloud9 is sitting up on top. We may just end up with these teams just holding out and seeing who survives longest in the ring based on where it's going. Ring is coming just outside, so these teams will need to move out eventually.
Cloud9 going to have to walk off of this roof. The team down below also going to have to walk their way out. And they don't have the Caustic Ultimate unless they happen to be holding on to one of those Ultimate Accelerants. And it's Renegades that are holding down this spot. So they're going to have 2 teams to deal with. 2 teams that are going to have to commit. Likely bubbles going down here as Renegades and I Am Madness about to just shred up these teams on their way to a potential win. We'll see what gives. They're holding on for now.
Wait, they're not moving out. Hold up.
All right.
Uh, C9 holding up at this top area. This is great here for them. They're avoiding a lot of the damage coming down, but now they're going in, and it's not looking good.
Cloud9 dealing so much damage with that Devo from the hip. Stay Not is still up top, holding out above the entire fight. And just like that, they are eliminated by Renegades, who does end up clutching it out, ends up dealing with both teams. Iron Madness doing so much work there to give Renegades the
Oh,
map to win.
what a crazy ending to that. C9 was holding up at that top for as long as possible, but it was just Renegades sitting at the bottom, waiting for them to come back down and ready to take their shots. Stay Naughty couldn't get into the ring at the end because of that ultimate from the horizon. It just got in the way too much, and the ring damage ended up taking out the Valk, and RNG picking up a win for themselves now in game two. And just based on how some of these teams worked out and shook out in the placements here, I feel like our entire leaderboard is going to get mixed up, because I don't think we really saw SSG at all.
Yeah, and of course, Esports Arena, another one of those teams that got eliminated early, now making it very late into the game and picking up kills on the way. So it is definitely going to be shaken up in terms of the leaderboard. Great job there by RNG, though. Even with a slight shield disadvantage, they were able to hold down that position, knowing that both of the squads would have to move first, putting down the bubble. Thankfully, no cryptos to be seen in that end game ring, and they're able to clutch it out. It looked really clean, and RNG, not the team that we were following for a large chunk of that map, but able to just make it happen, right? Walking in while other teams were busy fighting in the buildings. That is what it takes. And Madness and the crew looking especially nice on map 2.
Absolutely. And I mean, TSM getting fourth this time around, what didn't look like a great start in terms of their loot, they end up holding out and doing decently well for themselves. Only picking up 1 KP though, so not going to do too much there compared to our top three, who were all just right up around the 10 KP mark. So it's really starting to add up when you are just hanging out there and waiting for teams to come to you. I think really this is going to be a competition of who is going to be more aggressive. We saw SSG do really well with that in game one, went out 11th this time around, and now
Yep, just didn't
RNG,
quite work out.
Cloud9, ESA, all of them just fragging out this game and picking up most of the kills in the lobby.
Yeah, and it looked good. And much like my loot ticks, honestly, for TSM to be fighting with two whites and a blue, it really impressive. They were able to hold it down for quite a long time. The crypto, of course, the extra sauce that they needed for just a little bit of a stronger hold, but it was tough, man. We also saw Torrent down there with the two whites and a blue action for a long, long time until they were dropped on by Ghost. So curious to see where they ended up in the standings as well, because they were able to keep up at least a little bit of KP and go out a little bit later. But those drones were in full force.
Yeah, it's looking like crypto is doing a lot of work, especially as you saw, when you have the shields, you can just drop them, but you still take the damage on them. Crypto doesn't get the points for it, but it's still a bunch of annoying consumable usage that you have to work through every minute and a half, 2 minutes. So really interesting to see how that's going to keep working out, if some teams are going to try to pick up the crypto again. I'd like to see Tech pick up the crypto, because I know that that is one that he does like to play, but right now just hanging out on the Gibby as our leaderboard is ready to be pulled up here. And we will see RNG now tied in first with C9, as SSG do fall to fourth here. Torrent in third with their consistent play, and 100 Thieves down at the bottom alongside OA and G2.
Yeah, OA and G2 just not finding success, and G2 just losing a fight, pinched a little bit between NRG as C9 walked up, and C9 able to take massive advantage up on that height just to the southwest of where all of the end game ring action was. They pick up a lot of value with that KP and a little bit of positioning as well. Torrent, again, got to shout him out because they were chilling in the center for so long and still managed to pick up enough KP to put themselves in contention. They're still chilling in the top three. Some of the other teams that of course, ended up contested and didn't do quite as well. We see NM still on 20 points.
Yeah, not doing great. They went out really early this last game as our first team going out, actually. And Furia also, after a solid game one, not doing much in game two. So a lot of the teams kind of mixed up and mixed around here. And that's why you're seeing the top six are just within 6 points of each other. And it's going to be really interesting to see now who's going to start pulling away here, because any of those teams could pick up a win here and end up pulling away.
And these World's Edge performances are going to be really important for teams that haven't been finding that success on Storm Point. Because
Exactly.
once we move over to those maps, these guys aren't going to keep getting these spots and a lot of these kills for free. And I want to shout out the team fights that we've gotten to see because there have been so close. I mean, we saw the
Been
TL fight
nuts.
previously with Complexity. We got to see SSG just losing out on a fight that looks oh so close, and as well as C9 picking up the pieces off of a really close fight to pick up 3 KP and the positioning that they ended up with closer to the late game. These have been so tight. No one is getting this KP for free. And of course, the fights are just going to get more and more heated as we figure out what these teams like to do in those rotations, and especially whether these contests are going to continue.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see how it's going to work out. I think we did see DA go for a different go over towards landslide, but that didn't work out for them either. But unfortunately, now we're seeing just not a lot of options for some of these teams. We'll see how things work out on Stormpoint. Remember, we do have one more game on World's Edge before we go over to Stormpoint, and Stormpoint is going to be kind of just a hands up. We don't know what's going to happen because a lot of these teams don't have the experience yet, especially in competitive play, which is just vastly different from ranked ladder. So I'll be really watching these teams and seeing. I would assume things are going to get mixed up, things are going to be sloppy, and it gives opportunity for some of these teams that are not doing well now a chance to get back into the game.
So before we get there, we get one more look at World's Edge. I'm hoping for a little bit more of a northern ring. I feel like these northern teams have not gotten the best chance, but that's just how it goes, right? We are playing a battle royale, the best battle royale, in fact. And we get to watch a lot of these squads just able to adapt so quickly to the new lobbies, and that's probably one of my favorite things about this tournament format. Of course, you're not going to see the same things every week, and none of the rules have been established. So as we roll into game three, talk to me, Thousand Eyes. What do some of these bottom teams have to do different? It's not just a team fight, right? It's a little bit more complicated than that.
It really is, and I think a lot of it just relies on rotations here. Teams like G2, who we saw rotate really well in our games for our preparation into the finals, just not doing the same against these better teams. And I want to see them maybe try and rotate out a little bit more. I think honestly the way the rings have been going have not been favorable for them because they like to be, going into those rings late. They like to be hanging out alongside the edge. So I'm really hoping that we'll see a northern ring and get something a little bit more favorable for them.
Yep, and again, just able to adapt. That's going to be the name of the game for a lot of these teams. CLG always seems to be involved here in an early scuffle. And again, I want to say that it's Exit, but I could be dead wrong here. And it looks like they are really happy. Yep, there it is, Exit. They're really happy with their shield situation, though, as Exit, once again, the tried and true 2 white and blue, 30-30, trying to find a little bit of extra poke here. 42 and
Okay.
84 on the way as well. So Exit kicking things off nicely here, but who knows if they want to engage.
Oh,
Oh,
good lord.
they
Okay, shields don't matter if
definitely
you
do.
hit your shots, apparently.
Oh my goodness. And Vatro going out just like that. Pushed up a little bit too far, and so now CLG is just going to have to commit to this. Maybe pick
Scramble.
up the scraps and find a 2v3. Exit, though, looking real dominant here as Nano and Mama are going to have to find a way to pick up this banner.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be able to do so. I feel like this is one of those chances where you just camp that out, as Voltic is going to get completely sent on here.
And it's actually looking closer than it should be, as Kenny, the last man standing, Mamba and Nano just doing absolute work. And they are looking plenty healthy to continue the onslaught. And right
No
there is
way.
what can happen if you're not careful. Even with a man down, CLG clutch it up, and they pick up their banner as well.
That's a wild turnaround, and honestly, I feel like Xset just played that way too lax. They did not go in together, they did not contest the teams together, and they paid the price for it now as Vitro is going to get back into the game. And now we're going to be seeing CLG starting off with a nice 3 KP for themselves, despite a really iffy start.
And it's difficult, right? Because when you have games like that, it's so tough on your mental as well. That team needs to pick it up for the next game, but they're committing to the contest, right? So they have to be prepared for these 50-50 games where they're going to end up licking their wounds with 0 points on the day. They do pick up at least 1 KP, though, as we look towards the zone, and it is indeed pretty much the dead opposite of what we've looked at before. Northeast, we're going to Epi, we are going to Climatizer, and we are going to Kick, who's got gold shields on their Ash and a fight to be had.
Yeah, right now, Kick hanging out in the macaroni building, feeling okay. But White Shield's not feeling too great. But Complexity hanging on the outside, looking to try and maybe push this. You always got to be careful taking this kind of fight. The bridge is not as safe as it may seem because it has so many openings and so many rotation points through it. So I'm always worried when I see teams. Ooh, nice little hop there. I'm always concerned when I see teams hanging out on this bridge for too long because it just opens you up to a lot of third parties.
For the time being, though, they can just kind of hold this. They can just get all of that intelligence that they need to be able to make the right decision as more squads move in. Here we get to see Sentinels, who might be running into at least one other squad. We saw CLG fighting there earlier, unsure if they just held that down. And they did get a knock somewhere, or maybe picking up the scraps of a different knock. And they're just running in here. Indeed, Vatro, the member that they eliminate.
No.
And that is that's just sad. You hate to see it, right? You pick up the pieces and able to pick up your third member, only to be duoed up once again against none other than Sentinels.
The dude's just bait. He's not playing the game anymore. He's just getting downed every single time. He is a point just farm for everybody else right now. That is so unfortunate.
And actually, Nightmare, another team that gets attracted by the shots coming out of CLG and Sentinels. So CLG, once again, gonna have to try and play cat and mouse and maybe recover Vatro again. Making a lot of good things happen just as a duo, but hopefully they can find something here. They don't have the best position to just walk up, of course. And maybe Nightmare is looking for a fight here against Sentinels.
Yeah, as we do check in now with DXT, still running that fuse as they were yesterday. And they're going to be just right on the outside of this next ring coming in. They're just hanging out here, tossing nades, tossing the defensive bombardment, and they're going to full send on this.
And I believe Torrent are the ones that look outlook, but I don't see. Oh no, it's actually going to be an entirely different squad. They walk up here, they're looking for the fight, they're looking for the angles, not quite finding it. Stomps taking quite a bit of damage on the engage, and the bubble does go down as well. It's gonna be a cheeky angle from Sung, but almost one clipped, and Stomps going down as Davis Wave, the last man with shields. And it's not an easy fight here. They might be able to clean this up, but they have to do it quickly.
Oh no, DXT really struggling here. It's just the fuse up now as Ghost are going to try and clean this up from multiple sides. Oh, wait a second.
Oh my goodness, Davis Wave. You are just doing something illegal to this squad, and that is it for that team. Ghost gets eliminated. Dexterity able to pick that up. Golden backpack as well. So quick recovery there, and what a fight.
How many times are we just going to see 1v2s go through here? That is our second time this game, and Davis pulling that one out at the end. Once again, just teams not pushing together and taking one-on-ones versus going in just fully as a squad. Ends up biting them. Davis pulls that one out, and wow, that is massive for them.
Meanwhile, we get to watch Kick getting a little bit of intelligence here with the drone, of course. and they're holding off for now. It looks like that drone might have gotten broken though, either that or recalled, as Complexity has now fully moved onto this building, and Space Station Gaming also holding on the inside. So none of the teams getting too frisky for now, just holding it down. They don't need to do anything too crazy, but Complexity gonna have to make a crazy rotation with at least one squad shooting them in the back, and gonna pick up the kill here from
That's
Nightmare,
Nightmare.
none other than Nightmare, who was walking up behind Complexity earlier, but seems to have just taken a completely different pathway, as G2 able to pick that one up and now making a decision about where they want to walk.
Yeah, but G2 maybe taking a little bit rough here. No, they're gonna get that. Okay. I
Easy.
wasn't sure entirely if that was just the last person or if that was another squad coming in, but G2 gonna pick that one up. They do still have a lot of ground to move through here, as round one is fully closing in just a second. So they're gonna have to move up towards Fragment pretty quickly and start moving further and further north.
Meanwhile, we see a lot of the squads that have already gotten through this sort of midsection that is the north of Harvester, with a lot of just chokes and a lot of not fun places to rotate. We're going to see Lou on the Spitfire, though, which is definitely something you want to be holding onto if you're going to hold this spot up. And here we go. Another team fight breaking out, this time against a Fuse. So it could be a couple of squads, maybe Furia. I'm not sure if Furia survived earlier on, but here we go. Sentinels on the hunt.
Yeah, and they are definitely looking to take this fight here. You can see moving away from the ring, looking to try and push this. As it's just going to be hanging out, waiting for their moment. Oh, they want to just... Oh, this is so rude. This is so mean.
Baby. Rat baby. There's no better way to do it, I guess, if you're looking for
rat.
KP.
This is a bear trap. It's just going to close in on them if they walk through that.
It is just the way it goes sometimes for some of these teams, but doesn't look like that team overcommitted, and they are able to go just above them as well. So Sentinel's going to hold off for now on doing anything too crazy, but they also have to start thinking about how they're going to move. They are not in ring, of course, and have a decent chunk of space to cover, so they have Crust there with the ultimate on the Valkyrie most likely, and Esports Arena might be one of the teams that might look at him as they make their way in.
ESA hanging out just over on Outlook, feeling okay right now. Nothing exciting going on over here, but they are just going to be waiting for their time to move. They do need to move into the next ring, so they do need to move a little bit, but it shouldn't be too bad. They have the ult on the Valkyrie, and they're going to be giving that gold helmet over to the Valk so that they can get that ultimate as soon as possible.
Most certainly, and here we see them bullying those teams that are Valkyrying in. There is a chance that is Sentinels, but that is yet to be seen. 41 seconds left as this ring starts to close, and Furia very far up on the north side of the map and starting to make their way down as well. They have to get around the train tracks, though, and there might be at least a couple of squads looking at them, so just going to hit the Z, going to hit the Valkyrie, and move on out of there.
Yep, as to be expected here. And it's going to be just easy rotate. Pop those emotes, show off a little bit.
And they actually get a really nice ridge here to play, which means they can continue to harass some of the teams that are walking in later. Furia, of course, with the big brain strats coming out from Tech. Going to try and hold off these teams, maybe find a little bit of KP on the way, and at the very least find some damage. Those Fragment teams still need to walk in. And Space Station, very much the opposite situation, already chilling well inside of ring, but with multiple teams looking out on top of them.
Yeah, SSG have been in here with Cloud9, so both of our teams that we kind of expect a lot from just very much slowing the time, or sorry, towing the line. My brain just stopped working for a second. SSG just still setting up, though. They're feeling really good with this caustic. They can just set things up and feel real nice, not going to get pushed on any side here.
You have to be a little bit careful because they are facing up against the crypto, so those gas canisters can definitely get knocked out a little bit quicker than they might hope in a team fight situation. So staying healthy for now. RNG, the team that's being looked at, are Lobby 2 champions, going to look to also find their way up this ridge, but they have at least Furia to deal with for the time being, and possibly other squads on the south side. We know there were at least one slow rotate coming out, so they got to be careful. They got to clear their back, and they have to find a way forward.
TSM, this is looking a lot better for them here, as you can see them just using the drone to perfection, getting the ring as much as needed, and it's coming exactly onto them. So now, looking at them, they have the shields really well set up. They waiting for people to come to them once again.
There's a snare from another team. I don't think they'll get pushed on quite yet. They are holding on to what is zone number 4 here. So decent spot for them. But again, the harass is not going to come through, at least not from them to other teams. But the harass definitely finding their way into the truck. You're going to have to defend this for a while with very little ammo. And who knows what their shield situation looks like.
On the map. They finally got Vetro back up again for the 3rd time this match. And they are just trying desperately to move themselves up into this ring. That's so unfortunate.
They've got at least 9 lives, right? That's how cats work. They're continuing to walk up though, and they're not gonna have to deal with the team for at least a little bit. Meanwhile, all of these other teams are already focused on finding their spots in this zone. Of course, fighting around Climatizer, there are plenty of spots, but there are also very open buildings. G2 is sitting up on that bridge that has a lot of LOS coming from a lot of different directions. So they have to hold that down, honestly, for quite a long time with not a lot of cover to play. They do have a nice position, though, to look at other teams. So they're going to get to hold off for now, and they can definitely take a fight if they absolutely need to up on that bridge. We see so many squads already down here in Climatizer.
Yeah, G2. This is a game where they may finally be able to get something going here. Have been a little bit lackluster all throughout the day here, and now they need to get something going. DXT also in an RV of their own and getting pushed a little bit, but nothing too crazy. Just everybody just feeling each other out, looking to see what places they can just suck consumables out of and just slowly push forward. Nobody wants to be the first person to move.
Curious to know if there are any Loba squads that are still making the rounds. Of course, we saw NRG using that yesterday. Curious if they'll employ it today, at least to any success. His team's definitely scared a little bit for the crypto, and the shield swaps are getting moved forward here by Noct. So Esports Arena looking pretty comfortable at this position for now, and they're going to have at least one wall to play if they decide to walk up on a Climatizer. It might be TSM's truck that they're looking at, so maybe able to poke out a little bit more damage and even more resources drained from that squad.
Yeah, we'll see. What's going to happen here is ESA also hanging on the outside here. Ring now will be available to everybody to see, and I have to imagine TSM's spot is going to be one of importance because they really need to hold that spot safely. SSG still also in a solid spot themselves here, still just setting up and keeping themselves safe. This drop is going to slowly poke out people with that charge rifle.
With how many teams have dropped, this is really just the waiting game, trying to be patient, trying not to over peak and lose too many shields. We saw a drop there actually rip a Phoenix kit, which might be not the greatest indication of their shield situation. They have at least a couple of bats, though. 100 Thieves also looking on the very, very edge of this. They're going to have this donut building to play for just a little bit longer as well. So safe for now, but might not be safe for too long if teams decide we need to find a way in a ring, and that's the spot we're going to take. Squad on the roof getting poked out a little bit. That's going to be TL.
There's so many like food buildings around here. You got the donut building, you got the macaroni building. There's so many different foods being being picked up in this area, as we are just going to get a nice little shot. Free cam all around. Credit to the observers here, as TL's starting to get a little bit of damage here. 100 Thieves poking them out, but that's just bringing attention to them, as some of these teams might want to try and push in on that.
And here we see another one of those teams that has just been showing some crazy consistency. Torrent also posted up in one of those buildings that they won't have to move for at least a little bit longer. But here we see Sentinels, who certainly has to move, and they have both the Ash and Crust on the Valkyrie. So plenty of options, but not all of them safe. You're gonna have to use the Spitfire to open up a little bit of room, and they have the bubble as well. So lots of resources, but still not an easy execution to make.
Oh, here comes defensive bombardment. G2 gonna have to back away here. Round 4 is closing, so they really should be looking to move into this ring when they can.
Giving up the bridge here, not able to hold it much longer. And there we see the Valkyries flying in left and right. A lot of damage already getting put onto Gen as they walk on up, and this still isn't in, so they might be looking to play the wall that's right in front of them. Sentinels, though, might be looking their way as soon as they commit to this, and there we go. There is a bubble so that they can move up, but Sentinel smells blood in the water. They're getting looked at by a lot of squads, and Lou actually going down from tons of damage from the roof. That's going to be 2 members down now, and that is the wipe as Sentinels try to walk up and force G2 to make a decision. G2 actually holding off with the help from the roof.
Yeah, G2 made a decision, and the decision was pull the trigger, knocking out Sentinels there. And like you said, they did get some help from the people watching from there. G2 made themselves a little bit scarce and hard to see, which made them not the major target as Torrent getting blasted from the side here. They're okay for now, but as you can see, that ring still pulling over towards TSM. TSM just seem to have these god spots on lock. It's just an issue of whether they get the loot to go into it or not.
And we know they have at least the shields to work with, but who knows, again, about their actual med situation. They might be sitting on a couple cells. They might be sitting on one bat that they're holding onto for dear life. Furia here making it really difficult for these teams to continue and maintain those resources as they bully squads left and right. That I believe was the team that was bullying G2. And Torrent now getting pushed on as well by none other than G2, who cleans up that fight. But Space Station Gaming wants a piece of this pie. Getting dropped, in fact, but 2 members still left alive for SSG, and there is the Caustical dealing tons of damage. Rex still looking healthy. Xenial still looking healthy as well. Even though Dropped is knocked down, this fight is still not over. Space Station Gaming, though, not able to hold on quite as well as they had hoped, and they had to play this corner with all of their resources and all of their talent, and there it is. They're able to defend for now, but the fuse is there.
Yeah, it's not over yet. SSG are going to keep getting pressured here because all that fighting just attracts more fighting. DXT hanging around on the outside and looking to maybe do something here. They're nicely set up, and they're going to slowly, as everybody else is fighting, just maneuver their way in and see what they can do.
Furia getting taken out by Complexity as well, who manages to defend on this building, but still 30 seconds left to go. 8 squads left to move in. Team Liquid, one of the squads that's really struggling as TSM puts on the heat, and the defensive bombardment is there to stave them off for just a second. He eats a good amount of that defensive bombardment as he goes for the stick, though, and that might be all she wrote here for TL very soon.
Yeah, 100 Thieves also sitting here pretty nicely, but they need to get inside this building. You can see the nades just going to keep pressuring these teams that are on the outside. Ring is just finishing closing, so they're okay where they're at now. But it is not an ideal spot for themselves. Complexity just trying to stay alive as long as possible for placement points, and Monsoon will stay alive just for the time being.
And they do find a shield swap. Meanwhile, DA actually getting knocked out as well, so Complexity holds on, and actually with a decent spot is Monsoon as all of these squads continue to fight on the bottom side of these buildings.
Free for all.
Dexterity walking up as well, taking out Anmu. That is going to be 100 Thieves on the receiving end of Sung and the rest of Dexterity's savagery. They are able to run out just for a second and drop down. That's 2 members down. And Vaxlon also getting eliminated. So now Dexterity in a decently comfortable spot, but I believe TSM still up in that building, and TL actually survived the entire onslaught. So God. Now it might actually be fish in a barrel situation for TSM.
Holy, this is really interesting. Here comes the revives here, actually. Complexity's gonna get fully back in this because they got a respawn beacon from one of those packs that are on the ground. And Complexity should be able to just loot themselves up pretty safely, as just really can they get in without getting focused from another team. DXT trying to get in here, but the pressure on TSM is just really immense. They're gonna have to leave that soon. 100 Thieves are out.
And 100 Thieves tries to grief this res, but they aren't able to do it. Complexity with the clutch of Complexity,
so
with the shield swaps as well. And now they're going to be able to walk in as Dexterity, looking on the TL. TSM trying to hold off with not much ammo to their name. And there it is, another respawn beacon, just provide a little bit more cover. They have decent position, but they need to defend. They need to avoid the LOS from all the other squads as TL engaging onto TSM's truck, and it looks like that's going to be a straight up fight. But Complexity on the backside going to put the pressure on as well.
Yeah, DXT getting focused from 2 different areas now, so they do need to be careful. Now there is the drop there, but it is going to be inside the BB bubble, so that should be fine. TSM still holding on to this RV. The ring is slowly pushing forward as the Mad Maggie will come through from TL. Complexity getting low, but they take out DXT. One of our teams that we thought was going to be doing really well this game is TSM are now going to make their move with the ult.
And there it is. That is the dreaded bubble play that you don't want to see when TSM walks up with that drone. They continue to put damage onto this squad. Team Liquid is eliminated, but TSM does lose a member, and it might be the clutch up here from Shiny and Monsoon. They walk up with the wingman, not finding the shots that they need, though, until they do, as Complexity cleans up game number 3, the last game of World's Edge. After what looked like the brink of demise, Monsoon able to pick up their teammates and take the win.
What a crazy turnaround there. I saw Monsoon be the only person left, and I was like, all right, it's just a rat. Just hang out and wait for the rest of the game to finish out and try and get as much placement as you can. But they got the revive through, picked up the rest of those members, and got all the loot that was hanging there. Eventually coming in, cleaning up DXT from behind. 100 Thieves tried to push them. They died as well. And eventually Complexity are able to take it away as TSM took a lot of damage getting into that last fight.
And that philosophy was very clear there for Monsoon. When all is lost, play for the win, and that they did. The crypto there doing a lot of work for TSM to finish off TL, but unfortunately, Complexity able to clean up their kill very easily onto Dexterity and just having shields and bullets and grenades galore to be able to take that win. Definitely not what I was expecting after the situation they were in just seconds prior, but a clean win from them, and honestly an impressive one. A late game revival. I mean, I love to see it. I don't know if you do, because it is the clutch up that really loves to punish teams. Really, if you don't finish off that last member, that's all it takes. One member and a dream.
I mean, I wouldn't say that it was a clean win there, but it definitely was a solid win from Complexity. And it did help that a lot of other teams kind of played into their hand a little bit with the push coming from 100 Thieves. TL just kind of getting knocked down in that huge fiesta going on. And then the just DXT just swiping them out from under the rug and taking them out of the fight. So really Complexity did play well. They got a little bit lucky, but I mean, that's kind of par for the course in a battle royale. You need a little bit of luck to go alongside your smart plays.
And that is definitely the look that they needed here to catapult, hopefully upwards in the leaderboards. We'll get to check those out soon. But that is World's Edge wrapped up,
Yep.
right? That is the last look that we'll get for today. So they've put in the work for the first half of this 10K, but very soon here, we'll be swapping over to Storm Point, which is just going to turn everything on its head. Nothing that worked on World's Edge is going to be the same, and a lot of these teams are going to have to adapt. They're going to have to relearn and honestly get rid of some of those older habits that they might have developed for World's Edge.
Yeah, it's going to have to be a bit of a change here and see where teams are going to want to land. There is even more congestion in terms of drop spots, at least based on the information that we have on Storm Point. So expect even more aggression in the early game and expect to see a lot of teams going down early. So I'm really interested. We saw half of these teams obviously play, at least I did on my stream. You saw the other half, and we'll see. It's kind of just an unknown because we don't have that much competitive experience on Storm Point yet. So a lot of these teams are figuring out where their rotations are going to come through, and I think it's going to lead to a lot of messy gameplay coming through, and that's going to really throw people off.
And I love to talk about teams that are kind of not having the cleanest performances on World's Edge, but getting that Storm Point buff. Team Liquid there, we saw them in a lot of late game situations. Of course, the pickup of Gil doing a lot of work to just pump out tons of damage. So here we're seeing it in full force. They're able to pick up a third place here, and they're about to go to Storm Point, which they had massive success with yesterday.
Yeah, leaderboard is ready now, so we can pull that one up and show you guys what's going on. It is Complexity pulling away here after a nice win. SSG getting themselves back up to second, and C9 and RNG and Torrent all tied for that third place spot. TSM getting a nice amount of points for themselves. Yeah, that whole game, Complexity got 27 points. Put that in perspective there.
Disgusting.
That is a massive jump to get all the way back up into first place. And now teams like SSG and RNG are playing catch up. TSM, they had a great game, but it's still just not enough to put them in the running yet.
Yeah, and it is so close to see that these teams in the middle, right in the or the top of the middle rather, 3 through 5 are literally just one big game away. So, I guess 27 points is the new marker for success. We saw TL yesterday with a 25-point game, but Complexity saying, "Nah, we're the kings of the lobby today." World's Edge gets wrapped up very nicely with a tight bow of Complexity just shredding the lobby.
Absolutely. And we'll see how that works out for Stormpoint here. But right now, Complexity are on fire after that game, and we'll see how it's going to work out. I really do want to see it's not out of the running yet for any of those teams in the top 9 or so. I feel like a good game, obviously 27 points in one game. Any of these teams could make that work out, and we'll see how that happens. Complexity, though, really looking strong, and I want to see if the teams can match that going into the second half.
Yeah, and we're gonna have to see some big bounce backs from some of these teams. Again, Nightmare, who just wasn't finding good fights and losing a bunch of contests. We saw at least a couple instances of NRG, actually pretty much the whole first set of games, NRG not finding the momentum and the success that they needed to find a good amount of kills and a good amount of placement. And it's a balance, right? They're playing an edge style that I'm honestly not really used to seeing them play, where they're kind of just rotating a little bit later and keeping out a lot of teams. So maybe that mix up isn't quite working, or maybe the spots just aren't as easy. But in any case, we're going to take a very short break here as we roll into the next set of maps. Of course, Storm Point is here. We'll get to check that out in a little bit. Don't go anywhere. And we have 3 more games to wrap up the 10K. Welcome back. Welcome back. We've got three more games on Storm Point. Things are going to get real mixed up. Things are going to get real crazy, hopefully. And I'm curious to see if these teams are going to adapt or die trying. There is a lot of fighting to be had. And I think most importantly, a lot more to show from some of these squads that are on the bottom of the leaderboard.
Yeah, we'll see how that works out going forward, but there's definitely some teams that I don't think we expected to see this low, especially after their day one games. So going into Storm Point, it's a new 3 games. We are at the halfway point. So these teams that are on the bottom side, this is the time where they need to start pushing things forward. They need to turn on the afterburners and start playing more aggressive if they want a shot at first place.
And of course, some of these teams that are used to playing a very specific play style, maybe not adapting quite as well on World's Edge and just the new lobbies and a lot of new players and new teams in the mix. But here on Storm Point, it is the wild, wild west, and it's going to be for at least a couple of weeks. Even though we've had a couple of tournaments, if we had some scrims on the map, it is still, I mean, it takes years, it takes seasons, right? We've had World's Edge for so long. These teams have gotten so established with the ways that they like to play. Storm Point going to mix things up completely as we wait to get into lobby. Thousand Eyes, what are going to be your teams to watch? Because I've got a couple that I think are really saucy, and I love some of their legend picks in particular.
Yeah, I mean, obviously SSG, I think they're just really scary and a team that is going to be threatening. TL definitely has been kind of on the fringe here and just waiting for their moment to pop off. I'm really enjoying seeing the Mad Maggie come through. And I think C9 has had a couple of great games. So if there's any team that will be able to pull that away, it's definitely them. Complexity, we did see pull into the lead, but that was off of a 1 game spike. The question is, can they keep that up, or are they just going to be riding that high for the rest of the day?
And hopefully they can adapt. I'm not sure how well they did yesterday after moving over to Storm Point, but at least in Lobby B, there were a lot of squads that were very quick to the punch and just completely shaking things up. Of course, TL, one of those squads that was able to adapt really fantastically in Storm Point yesterday. We'll see if it is repeated here in the next 3 games. We will get to see that. I'm also watching out for Torrent because I think the Bangalore is awesome. I played Bangalore for a long time, though not to as much success, obviously, but seeing it in the mix here in Storm Point, I think is a really interesting addition, not just for the I guess solo smoke interaction, but also like you said, clearing off those sight lines and blocking off those sight lines is really important with such an open map and so much verticality where teams can take up very, very high points up on mountains and up on buildings to grief a lot of teams. So blocking access to that not only gets them slightly easier rotations, but also prevents them from getting up tons of evo that they're going to have to fight later.
Yeah, we'll see how that kind of shakes out. I really just kind of interested in how these rings are going to work, because we're talking about, the higher ends of this map are a little bit difficult to go up to because the hills in that map go through downwards, right? They go south. So it's very easy to rotate down without any kind of real worry. But when you're rotating upwards, you're going up against the grain and you're going uphill a lot more. So it's a little bit tougher to rotate there unless you're doing something like an Ash or a Wraith, or, even the Valk ult can be a little bit tough because the height that you are getting from that bottom side is not going to be as useful as if you were going from a higher point to a lower point.
And of course, we're going to see that get utilized a lot. It's not quite solved, but there seems to be a very popular composition of the Gibby, the Valkyrie, of course, for the rotations, but also the Ash. And the difference, of course, between the Ash and the Wraith is that it has that slight verticality. You're able to port up to some of these stranger zones and higher sections of the map. We've said it's an uphill battle a lot of the times, quite literally, if you're not one of those lightning rod teams or the high point teams, and especially if the rings pull in that direction, it's not the easiest feat to walk across not just that entire ground, but also a lot of these POIs where some of these teams are going to be taking, honestly, taking the rotations hostage and preventing teams from walking in.
Yeah, so we'll have to see as we are in Legend Select right now, and things will be getting underway in just a moment. So I will be watching with very heightened excitement here as we go in, because I'm looking at our supposed drop spots of the teams that we know, and we have like 4 places that are contested here. Launchpad is going to be contested between 100 Thieves and SSG. Sentinels are going to the mill alongside ESA. G2 and Furia both going to Lightning Rod, and Smoke Cave is going to be contested as well by CLG and OA.
Yep, and this is where we're gonna get to see, I guess, the make or break for whether these teams commit really, really hard to these POIs. Again, 2-day format also means that some of these teams that really love to drop in certain sections, once they get up to the higher end of the lobbies, right, where it's all of the best, they are most certainly not going to want to give up their rotation plan. So here we're going to get to see as teams might be fighting early here. Already Launchpad a bit of an early double drop, I believe, and we're going to see Furia making their way all the way up to Lightning Rod. SSG involved in a very early scuffle.
Yeah, SSG fighting early, as we did expect here, as that is going to be actually that is going to be 100 Thieves that they are fighting up against right away, and 100 Thieves already very low.
Oh, and the knock they're coming out from Scurry, and it looks like 100 Thieves, even though they were very, very low on health and shields, able to just make enough space to get the knock there. So that is going to be SSG running for the hills, or in this case, the tower. It's a lot of damage going on to Scurry, though, so they're able to defend for now. Brex, the last member that is not yet, you know, involved in the fight, of course, getting taken out, but Drop doing a lot with that charge rifle.
Yeah, you Drop landing, getting his favorite weapon, just beaming people in a very literal sense, as 100 Thieves are going to try and sit back and heal up. They're not doing too bad in terms of the, they're not doing too bad in terms of the weapons that they have, but Frex is still down, and they need to be able to get him back up. SSG just trying to hold on as long as they can.
And it's not looking easy for him. They still haven't gotten Frex up, and now the push is in full force. We've got 100 Thieves sitting on a purple, of course, and plenty of shields to work with, as well as positioning. So that is going to be SSG just getting absolutely rolled by the 100 Thieves squad. The bubble is there to try and hold just a second longer, but the no-scope from Vaxon is going to clean that up, and that is 3 KP to 100 Thieves.
Oh, that's just so aggressive and so rude. As, oh yeah, Sentinels. We've seen this a lot on Stormpoint. These teams get really feisty about it.
Yep.
As soon as one team goes down, we see the teabagging come through. But yes, SSG going down immediately. Really surprising. And this is great for 100 Thieves. They took out one of the top teams, and they have 3 KP for themselves.
Yep, so here we see the 2 early contests that we were expecting, and here we might see a third. Actually, not even a contest, potentially. G2 looking up against Furia, who usually lands Lightning Rod, I believe. So here we go. G2, the Roller Boys, going to roll on up and try to take down this squad. Not a lot of sight lines to be had quite yet, so they're going to be patient here. Those are gold shields on the other side, which is not what you want to see if you're looking for a clean 3v3.
Yeah, G2 using that Hemlock really well, actually, and getting some shots down, but G2 will still need to push out of here. As we can see, Ring is going to be going down southwest, and G2 are going to have to fight that fuse up here against the G2 combo here. And the pressure from those nades is starting to become a problem. Flesh all around from everybody, though.
Oh my God, did you see that one clip? That isn't the Ashport that they wanted, though, so now they're gonna have to take the stairs like everyone else, while Fury gets a chance to recover. Zera very low on health. Tech also down to a sliver of flesh health. Zera does end up going down, and now Tech and Pander is gonna have to recover while G2 fully commits to the fight. They're gonna walk up here. The R9 from Designful, absolutely terrifying. The roof is taken, and that hip fire is disgusting. Designful, you can't be doing that. But Jet still holding down this angle, so it doesn't quite end for them, and they're going to try and pick up a KP, but not in time. Fury is eliminated.
Fury is going to be taken out, and G2 feeling pretty happy about that one, but the ring is going to start closing, and they've got a ways to go, because you can see it just spawned right on top of them. So it's gonna be a run for them, and they better get sprinting fast, because a lot of teams are already inside of this ring and just outside of it.
And it looks like Complexity here going to also try to find their spot in the next ring, maybe pick up a beacon on the way. Definitely love to see it from these squads, but they're getting pressured from downhill. So Not to adjust a little bit here, not the freest game plan, and those grenades are going to make it even more complicated. The bubble is committed, but it's not in time, unfortunately, and they're going to have to try and stick this rest as fast as possible because RNG does have the Ash ultimate, but they don't even need it, and there we go. They descend upon Complexity, able to finish off that kill. Sauce taking a little bit of damage on the engage and might be going down. Torrent getting involved as well, and there's the finish on a Complexity, but it is not from the other squad, so Torrent now looking to find a little bit of extra KP on their way to this beacon.
Yeah, so Torrent taking down Complexity here, as we do see some of this Bangalore that we did talk about here. Bangalore does have a little bit more use on Storm Point with these smokes, providing a lot of extra cover. And you can get away with a little bit less rotational power thanks to the gravity cannons. So
it looks like they didn't bother with the beacon, so maybe they don't need it. Maybe they already had one. They're looking to get in there quick. So RNG able to walk on out from that one, not punished too harshly for trying to find that fight. So it's going to be Complexity going out, which is honestly a huge factor. We know what they can do in those late game rings. So for them not to make it, maybe taking them down a peg as another champion will be crowned for this lobby.
RNG's over near the islands here, trying to get these loot boxes down from the, just farm that damage. For those who aren't aware, you can farm damage off of the monsters that are around now. It's a very lessened amount from the damage that you do as opposed to on a player, but you do get a little bit extra there. And if you are just looking to get that loot box, that good way to get that is hit it once, wait for the bird to flap its wings a couple of times and go back to flying normally and hit it a second time. That'll knock it down 100% of the time.
And TL getting knocked a little bit here in terms of the shield department, but still big chillin'. And they are the ones now employing the Lobo, which means they'll be able to pick up plenty of meds. They're looking over to at least one more team here. We're going to see them take this nice and slow. Don't have to be too overactive. You don't want to get too giddy and look for fights or damage where you don't need them. And I love to see Gil on the Lobo, honestly, because it means they have a lot of staying power in terms of loot. And they are already very early into a spot and ring.
Yeah, as we do check in Exet, hanging around way outside ring and going to have to move in. 100 Thieves are missing Vaxon here, who got really far back there. What happened here? I'm really confused, actually, how they got so split up and Vaxon ended up going down here. We'll figure out what happened eventually, I'm sure, but 100 Thieves gonna have to run all the way back here just to pick up their teammate and get their full squad back in.
Yep, and so this seems to be the story for a couple of teams. We saw CLG doing this again and again, so maybe 100 Thieves will match that style. But for the time being, still eating quite a bit of zone damage, and it looks like Exet is the team that is still over here, still being a menace, but still crafting up. They're less worried about getting into ring early and more worried about that loot. So they might have to deal with 100 Thieves.
Yeah, they're not here to get in the ring. They're here to just type away on those keyboards. They sound real nice, you know. Just isn't it always nice to type on a really good sounding keyboard?
Oh, certainly, certainly. And here we're gonna get to watch TSM definitely putting those keyboards to good use in a lot of these tournaments. But before we get there, we're going to get to see the bubble from 100 Thieves. I don't know if Exet is still looking here or if they rotated out, but they are going to recover that flag and they're going to move on out, but not before getting looked at by an entirely different squad. DXT potentially in a similar situation. They put down the res beacon here, so they might also be down a man. Looks like a lot of people suffering early in the ring as Cloud9, actually the squad getting involved here. Not even the Exet that we were seeing earlier.
Why is everyone here?
Hot piece of real estate. We're going to be able to clean up that kill on the Scurry. And so now 100 Thieves, if they weren't shattered before, they are certainly shattered now. 3 purple shields onto Cloud9, who, as we all know, don't love to be deep in the ring at all. In fact, they love to be in the red. Just taking up that damage, but taking kills on the way.
Yeah, and Cloud9, you know, picking up that KP, and 100 Thieves really unfortunate that their teammate went down so far there because it just bit them so incredibly hard. The Valkyrie will come through, to get back into the ring, and you can see there is another Valk that is getting the squad back in, so they are going to just detour over a little bit to avoid getting into a fight here, as whatever Laylee's going to need to heal up.
Here we get to see the teams on the north side that are going to have to work their way in eventually. Torrent, of course, with the Bangalore. We also see NRG, and last but not least, we have Ghost up on that north side. I'm curious to know why NRG is making these slower rotations. I feel like, at least in the scrims that we got to watch, they were moving a lot earlier into those rings, so maybe lack of beacon or maybe just a change in playstyle, but they're going to be moving and potentially clashing with some of those squads, whereas CLG here playing pretty patient and trying to farm up that damage. I'm not sure if that res beacon actually went down for cover or if they're actually picking up a team member.
99% of the time it is cover. It can be used to get people back in, but a lot of teams like to just call them down early, even if you're not missing a member, because it does give that little bit of extra peek ability to hide behind.
CLG pretty comfortable here in the ring, not really needing to move around too much. But NRG, again, one of those squads that is opting for a bit of a mix-up. And here they're going to get to look at least one member going down very early. Sweet with the one clip there, assisted by Nathan. And now they're just going to walk up and claim these kills. And it's actually Torrent on the receiving end.
Yeah, and Torrent going to just go down. RKN is away. And NRG going to keep pushing in on this here. They are feeling it, and they're running a really interesting comp here. This is an aggression comp, if I've ever seen one. Got the Horizon, the Bangalore, and the Fuse looking to just run people down, suck them up into those nades, and blow them away.
This is kind of nasty. Now I'm kind of seeing why they're opting for the slower rotate and just bullying the teams on the outside, because with that composition, bullying is going to be the name of the game. So able to pick up a quick kill here. Torrent going to recover and stay alive for now, and we know how much work the duos can do on this map.
For sure, as they are just going to hang out on this edge of the ring and maybe look to take more fights. That's exactly what I would expect out of this. That Fuse ult is doing so much there. Wow. It's DXT, another one of our Fuse players, just going to be pressuring CLG up on top of this rock. This is such a good place to hold, but as you can see, it brings a lot of pressure when everyone can see you up here, as the Gibby is going to be pushing them away from it.
And it looks like the bubble wasn't there on deck, either that or just not choosing to commit to that spot too hard there. Now taking quite a bit of damage, but manages to get a bat off instead. So CLG here going to opt for the lower ground as Torrent actually looking for this banner. They are able to pick it up. Rambo trying to move their way on as well. And now Rocker, Sweet, and Nathan going to try and look for this kill. They get the pickup, but they trade Rambo instead. And that's honestly not the trade that you wanted to see here.
Yeah, NRG also just kind of hanging out here, just popping the smokes here for a little bit of cover. Good use of it, but Napa needs to back away and shield bat up here. Ring will force NRG to move forward here, but shouldn't be too much of an issue. Remember though, this team is one that does not have rotational power. They're not running a Valk, they're not running an Ashe, they're not running a Wraith. They have to basically just walk wherever they want to go. It's all about taking these pushes.
And G2 getting shot in the back right after eliminating Torrent, so we won't be seeing Torrent later in this game. 15 squads left, and G2 looking to turn and burn whatever squad is shooting him in the butt. Most likely NRG, who was fighting with Torrent just a few seconds prior, so we'll get to see potentially a straight-up team fight here. And there it is. We get to see the grenades and the singularity being thrown down. Let's see if NRG can lay out damage as well. There is about 70 going onto that gold shield, and here we get to see not one arc star, not two arc stars, but 3 arc stars. Make it 4 while we're at it, and that is disgusting. If you're G2, I am sure you would be mauling right now. They haven't even taken damage, and already one knock going down. Huge pump coming out of Nathan with the PK. Does get traded out just a little bit, and actually losing this bubble fight just a tad. So NRG not able to clean these up quite as cleanly as they had hoped, and now they have to back up. Cloud9 the ones getting involved and looking for this KP.
Yeah, and they went up against a team that does have an also fairly aggressive composition here with the Horizon on Zach Mazer, who is going to be dropping down to try and fight this, but Cloud9 do have other people paying attention to them, so I don't think they can fully commit to this. RNG is in the area and putting down some fire. Really unfortunate there that we see that super aggressive comp go down, but it is what it is we do see G2 going down again in our fights here. Sentinels still fighting another squad after they just took one out.
Oh no, Lou overcommitting to that peak and just getting absolutely fried by that duo. It's down to
C9.
Crush, who's gonna have to pull it from out of the bag. Is this gonna be the clutch of a lifetime? But I do believe it is a 1v1, and here we go, dropping down onto that shield. 104 damage from the massive, and Crush cleans it up for Sentinels.
Crazy fight there, and just the turnaround from Sentinels. They win a fight, immediately get jumped on by Cloud9, and still come out ahead on top of Cloud9. NRG, they can get actually back into this here, as Sentinels will lose their one player here. 4 kills now on Sweet. So this team is getting a lot of kills, but now they need to get their Bangalore back into this fight and get her loot ASAP.
And that is the name of the game, is recovering your third. They do have a decent position to do it as well. They get to look onto this team over on the rock. That might be C9, unsure. You hate to see Sentinels be punished after losing what is a crazy clutch, but that is just the way it goes. And now NRG gonna hold this down, and Sweet definitely wants to use that singularity once again, dropping the weapon there for Nathan, who's gonna have no shields, really no weaponry left to speak of. And we get to look over at Cenote Cave, where this is walking towards, and it is already a very well populated.
Very much so, and with how this ring is pulling now, all these teams need to leave. This is really unfortunate. DA actually, or OA, sorry, rather, over here onto this island first, and they have control of this building. This is a very lucky pull for them, and hopefully we'll get them something, because they've just been struggling throughout the day.
Of course, the Loba, they're going to do a lot of work. Exec going to do a lot of work here as well from range with the wingman on Kenny. They've got a lot of people in a lot of buildings to worry about, however, so plan has to be made here, and they are opting for the Wraith as opposed to the Ash. We mentioned that earlier, and they are going with the tried and true, so a little bit more of that World's Edge comp that we were seeing from the likes of TSM before they swapped to the Crypto. Definitely really interesting to see, and it'll be really important that they make good use of it in this next rotation.
We'll see how it works, but ultimately it's going to be an interesting rotation once this ring starts pulling, because you can see all these teams in the buildings over here are going to have to move out, and we have 12 squads. There is not room for 12 squads in that ring, as 100 Thieves getting pushed. Exet taking damage.
There's no room for Kenny either, as Exit getting completely pumped out by this 100 Thieves squad. All 3 members still left alive. They're going to clean that up. They're going to find the shield swaps and honestly recover pretty swiftly before any other squad can get involved. Meanwhile, NRG was busy wiping TSM, it looks like, or at least the majority of them. Imperial Howl and Verholst both going down, and 1 member left, as Nightmare also looking to get involved. And this is just the sloppiest set of fights that I have ever watched. And here we go. Nightmare losing 1. Definitely not how you want to start that fight. Aim God going fully down, losing to NRG, and this comp is working for them so well. They wanted kills, and that is exactly what they're getting.
Yeah, this is really wild, and I think with how sloppy the games are going to be on Stormpoint, this kind of composition can work really well, as we're seeing the ultimate from the Bangalore come down to give a little bit of cover as they rotate over. A lot of these teams need to move and move now, because the ring is coming.
And there we see that ultimate is not just great for engaging, it's also good for defensively covering your backside. Here we see 100 Thieves put in a very detrimental situation by the big ol' suck from NRG, and now CLG walking in, also losing a member though. And this is the problem when you're walking in too late. You're going to deal with a lot of these squads that have the angles. They're doing well for now though, and RNG actually going to fall to CLG, and 2 members down. Can they pick them up?
Yeah, so we went from 12 squads to 5 after all of that there. As Mamba does go fully down, TL gonna get into this building here and hide out. They do have OA on the other side of it, but with the ring closing there, Or sorry, no, that is a different building. My apologies. OA and DXT are hiding in the same building. DXT hanging up at the top, and I'm sure OA are aware of the little flies on their windshields right now.
And we saw a ring very similar to this yesterday, actually just ending right up on this building where TL played the low ground, and it looked like it was going to be a heal off, but that was not the case. So we'll see if DXT here is able to hold on the back of this rock just long enough to wait out some of these other teams and potentially punish some late rotations. I think NRG might still be up, and of course CLG waiting in the wings.
Oh, just hanging out. So far, they've been playing very slow and playing towards the ring. You can see ring is still coming into them. So they are very, very safe for this spot. And they can keep pulling up the Loba ult to keep grabbing loot, grab the ammo they need, and most importantly, grab those consumables to take up any poke that comes their way.
Next thing they need to grab, though, is ring position, and that won't be coming from the Lobo ultimate. They have at least squad looking up above as well. CLG does end up losing Mamba, and they have to walk into a building populated by 2 teams, or at least DXT with the rock right behind the buildings. It looks like for now they're getting away with it. Nano taking some damage from across the way. CLG does make it across, and now they have the bottom of these buildings to play. Huge move for them, not punished for their late rotation for the time being.
Yeah, they're calling down the respawn beacon, so Mamba will be getting back into this fight, but he's going to be very, very weak, as Ghost are also hanging up here, getting beamed by Boxy T, who's going to now just get the kill onto Impulse. This Ghost is going to get wiped here almost assuredly.
And TL playing the exact same rock from yesterday, doing so much work to continue griefing these teams who made their way towards the building. And this is a great spot for Team Liquid to play because they can continue to punish both the teams on bottom and on top. Bubbles going down. Gilderson still big chillin' and just holding out these angles as CLG gets bullied from every direction.
Yeah, this is starting to get really funky here. Ring is going to start closing in about 30 seconds, and it's moving in towards the building. So once again, OA really happy with how this is pulling, but they do need to leave the building, and there is no exit towards the back there, so they're going to have to leave it a little bit earlier than they may like. But they can hide out for now. CLG, oh no, it's just Mamba alive now, and he's going to run into a team.
Going out with a 1 clip if there was ever a way to do it. Actually manages to slide down below though, so Mamba still staying alive as we roll into round number 6, the final ring here about to close. Optimal Ambition holding down the inside of the building. That Gibby just making rounds in and out of the building. We have, I believe, Dexterity also on the backside of that rock still, and yes indeed, they have a great spot to play and they could just continue to wait this out. Davis Wave also with the ultimate.
Yeah. And that fuse ult can be so huge when you're talking about these small rings. It brings so much pressure. And not only that, but it gives vision now too. So remember that. This is going to be a really interesting last ring because we still have 4 squads as the final round is closing.
TL almost went down to a heal off and got dropped on, so they're choosing to be on top this time around. Dexterity still waiting just a little bit longer. That rock is very playable, but Nocturnal going to try and put on the pressure, and that is one way to do it. A big headshot coming out with the wingman and lots of damage being followed up from by TL. We're going to put down one last black market as TL prepares for this end game, and there is just under a minute, just over a minute left actually for this ring to close.
It's all coming down to this as DXT are getting focused hard. You can see all the teams over near this building side, and DXT are the only ones over there. So everybody's just watching over towards DXT. Unfortunately, it's not feeling too great for them. I feel like they're going to have to pop that ult sooner rather than later.
Lobbing a Skynade there to just relieve the pressure, but they better have a lot more where that came from as Nocturnal and the crew continue to pressure this squad. There is the bubble, and now both Optimal Ambition and Team Liquid have to think about what they're going to do next. The building is no longer safe for them, and there are the bubbles. Here is the classic tried and true. TL drops down onto Dexterity, but Optimal Ambition is there to follow up, and with 2 squads left, it's going to be all up to Blakeu and the gang to clean up the game, and they do just that, taking it from Team Liquid and winning the first map on Stormpoint.
Yeah, Optimal Ambition able to clean that one up at the end, had the ring nicely come over to them and force the teams into them. And after what seemed like a really rough start to the day, Optimal Ambition pulling out our first win. DXT also doing really well. NRG also doing really well. So some of these teams that haven't been in the running or on the forefront of our minds are starting to pop off on this new map, and that can really throw things into flux as we get ready to show our points, which we are currently tallying up. I am really interested now to see how that's going to shake out.
I don't know if your lobby was as much of a treat yesterday during the qualifiers because for us, this was exactly what happened. Optimal Ambition Dexterity didn't have the success that they needed on World's Edge. And here they are just taking down Storm Point by storm. Honestly, they are just doing really, really great. They had a really good positioning very early. That building ending is definitely to the benefit of teams who are able to find those sneaky spots where they can just wait and hold off. Team Liquid had to commit to the drop there and pick up the KP on their way out. So they're still going to be pretty happy with the second place finish and the KP from Dexterity. But Optimal Ambition, man, that looks so clean.
It looked really good. Optimal Ambitions seemed to really understand the map and where they needed to be. And their rotations out towards the end of that fight, they took it very slowly and played it really intelligently. And they did get some KP for themselves as well, as those teams were hiding up on top of their building. They would just beam them down, get you. So we saw Boxa T get a really nice beam and pick up a kill just very easily. Honestly, if Optimal Ambition keep playing like this, they're going to be able to put themselves into the running.
Optimizing that ambition indeed. And I'm curious to see how the tables are going to get turned upside down because NRG, you mentioned it, they had a pretty good game. They kept finding kill after kill after kill. Didn't end up surviving there to fight in the top five, but they were looking really solid. And CLG as well, again, another team that really surprised us in Storm Point in yesterday's lobbies, still doing really well. Ended up walking up with a duo and surviving for a really, really long time to their credit. So able to find KP and been able to find some extra positioning points. That's going to be huge if it means moving up in the standings.
Yeah, and as we do kind of just run through how things shook out in that game, we do see DXT going fourth, CLG third, and TL second there. But TL running with a lot of kills for themselves with
Yeah, it looked really good. It
eight
looked
total.
really good.
I want to see where NRG with 10 total kills themselves, despite ending up ninth. They were absolutely running the lobby until they ended up getting taken out eventually. Honestly, I really want to see more of that composition because it was just so aggro and brought so much excitement into our middle portion of this game.
And they were able to fend off third parties pretty effectively. The verticality of the horizon, as well as the singularity, means that they have a lot of power to defend after a quick fight. And if they're able to finish off these fights effectively, if they're able to continue rotating like they did and finding some later game spots with even more kills, NRG could climb the standings very, very quickly. Let's talk about the teams that weren't up there, though, and teams that were dying on contest because they were actually some of our top teams coming out of World's Edge. Space Station Gaming not really finding anything there,
Yeah,
losing very, very early on that early game fight. And that is not what you want to see if you expect to win the tournament.
it's not absolutely SSG going down super early on, and that is not going to be enough considering they don't have the same kind of lead they did going into our second half yesterday. But we do have our points ready to go and ready to show here, as we will see Complexity still hanging up near the top, but Renegade's also up in the running there, 31 points. Now, as we do just kind of keep going down, CLG, TSM, G2, Sentinels, all on the bottom half of our roster right now. Not what we expected to see, but really right now, Complexity still keeping that lead going and going to have to keep that pressure up if they want to hold that lead because the teams are closing in. And as we do get in our ears that OA did get 17 points, so most of their points came from that game that time around.
And what that means for a lot of the teams like NRG, 100 Thieves, I mean, even Kick and Fury is they're all still well within striking distance. If Complexity goes out early and doesn't find a lot of success, if Renegades and especially Space Station, who is on a contested POI, if they can find big games like this repeatedly, we've got two more opportunities for them to put up 20 plus point games if they are able to perform like some of the teams that did yesterday. So this can definitely get turned on its head. Team Liquid jumping almost, I think, 6 positions, if I'm not mistaken. That is a huge game for them. And Torrent still in contention, even though they didn't have the best game here, losing out early to the NRG and G2 combo. So, yeah, that was crazy seeing them jump upwards of 8 positions, I believe, is what they jumped. That's sick, man. That is exactly what you're going to need if you want to take down the tournament.
Yeah, and I mean we know that TL can be a consistent team and can pull away these wins. We need to see that throughout the rest of these games, and I feel like asking for consistency on a map like Stormpoint that is so new and people don't know what's going on, that's going to be a hard ask going forward. And that needs to really put pressure on a lot of these players to figure out what exactly is working and what isn't. I'd love to see, NRG, obviously that comp seemed to work really well for themselves until it kind of fell apart as they got taken out. I
Yep.
want to know if that's going to keep coming
Yep.
up
Yep.
or if we're going to see that just kind of stay where it is.
Yeah, and everyone needs to adapt, right? It's curious to see that we had, I swear, I'm gonna have to watch the tape back because yesterday we had a ring that was almost identical with TL playing that exact same rock and multiple teams like CLG walking into that exact same rotation underneath the building. So it's also a learning game, right? They had already seen this at least once, and it's about that small experience, right? This is what we need. We need more opportunities for these pro players to get to see these rings and see how they play out. And in this case, it's working fantastically for a lot of these squads. So, of course, 2 more games on Storm Point. I want to know if these teams are going to continue to contest. The disrespect has been laid out on those death boxes, certainly in the kill feed. So we'll get to check out if these teams can adapt and maybe find a little bit more success going into the next couple of games.
Yeah, we'll see how that shapes out because I don't know why, but for some reason, everybody just starts getting angry in Stormpoint. Just as soon as any early squad went down, there was teabagging going on. There was shooting on the boxes, teabagging, and just like everybody seems to really be out to get each other now. And I don't know if that's just because of the fact that they want to, going well for themselves and feel good about it, or if they want to just say, stop coming to our drop spot. This is our spot. I don't know which it is.
I think it's certainly a little bit of both, right? They're marking their territory. A little bit of salt in the wound definitely tends to get some of these teams and players off of those POIs. But I think for the time being, again, some of these game plans are very well structured. A lot of the coaches and a lot of the team IGLs know what their game plan is. Not sure if that's the case with NRG, who seems to be just W King the comp. Obviously, playing it to really great use there. Not able to find a late game situation, but finding a lot of kills along the way. So maybe it's a little bit more refined that we expect. Hate to see Torrent going out as early as they did, but that's just, I guess, the way that the game played out. It's never the same, and it's all about whether you can fight out some of these teams that are playing these crazy compositions.
Yeah, and I know that I do want to keep watching teams like Sentinels and C9 who had some really great fights going into these games. They We saw C9 clean up a couple of fights. Sentinels obviously getting that really nice start and just picking off people there. I want to see more of it. I'm loving the action that we're seeing so far as we are dropping on to game 5 of the day. Remember, we just have 2 more games. So if you're looking to make the push for first place right now, it's got to happen right now.
Yep, and it has to happen. There's only 2 more games, so Sentinels here already picking up a fight, and it looks like this spot will also be fully contested against ESA. So we'll see who wins out this time. ESA, of course, very absent from the latter half of the game we had just now. So it looks like Sentinels won that one out, and no one is giving up this POI.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I expected, even though I don't know if it's the best idea here. as contestation has been the name of the game. Crust already with a purple shield on drop, feeling nice and happy about that one, but we'll see what the other side has for them, as it is ESA with 2 blues, a 3rd blue now, so actually overall a little bit more in terms of the shields. Pressure going down though as Skittlecake's moving up.
Oh, really good there, and a big pump there as Skittlecase walks up with a big flame. 81 to knock down the Wraith, and Esports Arena the ones taking them down. I wonder if bodies will be shot, because that was absolutely decimation from Esports Arena there. Absolutely fantastic to see them. So now we'll get to see them a little bit longer in this game.
Yeah, so now Sentinel's going down early, and ESA pulling out a nice win for themselves. Have been kind of quiet. We've seen them here and there pop off, but this is the first time I think we've seen them really do well right from the start of a game. So check out with G2. Ring is still pulling far away from them. So question is, how are they going to maneuver this? Because last time it did not work out. Furia are still right by them.
They were able to wipe out Furia, but Furia here doing a little bit more early scouting to get a little bit of damage, hopefully, before they get engaged on. We know G2 is so dangerous in the team fight when they get good positioning. It's the case with a lot of these teams. In this case, Furia holding it down for now. I think they're just going to be patient. They're going to continue looting up, because I think they have a long way to walk, and I don't know where this ring is going, but we've got another southern zone, so southern teams might have a little bit of a might be able to sit on some solace there, because they don't have to walk uphill.
Absolutely. Like we said, maneuvering downhill is definitely a lot easier than maneuvering uphill on this map. As we do see, it's actually a southeastern ring this time around, as 100 Thieves and SSG, while they did drop together, they're just handshaking it right now. They're not pushing each other just yet, but they're keeping an eye out.
Yep, here we see SSG now getting a little bit more settled. It looks like they didn't fully fight this one out quite yet, so might be looking for the fight eventually. 100 Thieves getting up underneath them here and getting just a little bit more loot. They're just holding down this building, and this is the problem with the split, right? You never know whether your side of the BOI is going to have all the good. So now that we see the ring pulling in this direction, both of these teams are going to have to hold on to all of their resources as tightly as they can, because they are splitting shields. They are splitting all of the meds and all of the resources, even the bullets that they're going to have to utilize to keep all of the other teams out.
Yeah, but 100 Thieves have this bottom ground pretty much under control, which has more loot available for them. So they can just get a little bit more looted up and feel okay. They also have access to the crafting here and can get whatever they need out of that. And you can see SSG just sitting on the 2 white shields and not really a whole lot in terms of guns. Running the L-Star, the triple take, a lot of guns that we don't see a whole lot of.
And I think they might just have to commit to something here, right? Space Station, not with the best shield situation. They don't have tons of ammo. We see Car R9 for Frex, which is not the worst situation, but 100 bullets certainly not what you're going to be happy with going into a late game. So might be opting for potentially repositioning to one of the rotational POIs and picking up a little bit more loot, or they might just take the fight. Honestly, we know that SSG can definitely fight it out, so we get to see what they end up deciding to do, as they will pick up likely a beacon here on their way either out or in.
I mean, I think right now it's kind of just if they're not going to fight us, we're not going to fight them. 100 Thieves now actually moving out and trying. Oh, wait, are they going in or are they going out? They're going in.
Oh, yeah. 100 Thieves decides to pull the trigger. If it looks like SSG isn't going to commit, they're just going to do it themselves. They have at least 2 Arc Stars to work with. They're going to have to drop down here. They're out of bounds, but 100 Thieves here on the full engage. There is the bubble, and double bubbles going down. Even more grenades to try and save them off, and this is just a game of cat and mouse at this point. Both of these bubbles will go down eventually, and likely members of both teams with it.
Devo!
Oh my goodness, that is a lot of damage. 100 Thieves, their game plan falls apart very quickly, and Onmu gets wiped. Their push falls apart. Space Station Gaming able to just send their bullets all the way through 100 Thieves to pick up that win.
See, I don't know what it is. Stormpoint makes people angry. It's take the win energy. Also, taking Ghost out and picking up a nice amount of shields once again. NRG starting off great in this second half here. SSG got pushed and held off the push. 100 Thieves unfortunately not able to make that out, and I'm a little surprised they pushed that.
And yeah, I mean, at some point they decided that they had the right amount of advantage, but G2 here also looking pretty good in an advantage state themselves. They are already engaging on Euphoria and already picking up tech, once again falling first. This ultimate is going to hold off G2 just a moment longer, but there is the wingman car combo from Designful. Actually, the car doing all the heavy lifting there, and 2 members left up to Furia's 1 means that that's going to be 86 damage from the wingman. And maybe a clean up here with the hip fire. There it is. G2 picking that one up. Furia dying to G2 once again. And the aggression, baby, bodies being shot. Get out of my POI, says G2.
Like, we don't see that at all on World's Edge. But as soon as we get on Stormpoint, just the dial turns up and everyone's mad. I love it. And we're
that's
checking in with
the Wild West, baby.
I mean, do we know where Stormpoint is? Is it in the West?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
We'll have to consult our lore experts here.
Let's go.
And we'll get to check out what TL ends up deciding to do. I've been seeing a lot of hype around TL Stormpoint, to be completely honest, and it's looking really good. They've been able to find some really nasty spots to punish teams. Torrent in a really nasty spot, already losing a member and dropping onto multiple teams. So we'll see how long they can survive here.
Does not seem to be for long as they're going straight into a team. TL also just poking from the side, and now it's just the hold right now as they're putting down another black market just to grab more of those consumables again.
Suck up all of those goodies that are on all of these buildings. And yeah, TL just looking pretty solid here. The ring is still pulling generally towards them. Yet to be seen where we're going to end this guy. But with ring 1 closing, that is 4 squads dead. Thousand Eyes. That is some aggression if I've ever seen it.
I mean, we've definitely seen the aggression come through. Complexity also down a member. Respawn not going to be available as that has timed out. Xset just on the edge of the ring as well. And we'll see now where the ring is going to start pulling again, as it is just going to be in the northeast side of what is left here.
Torrent still living.
Are they?
1 member strong.
Trying to get to this respawn here, I think, but it is a trek to get this one.
Yep, and they're trekking even further into zone, which they know something I don't clearly. They're going to continue to live until G2 says otherwise, and I don't think they knew you were here, so taking it right back. Yeah, G2 is just going to continue to claim this POI just with their presence alone, and Rambo is doing their absolute best, picking up some random damage here somewhere as they continue to walk. They continue to survive and continue to scrap for those placement points.
Yeah, I don't know how much heals Rambo has, though, so this is getting a little iffy. We'll get inside the ring, but the question is, can you heal back up? And I don't know if that's going to be the case. There are a couple of respawn beacons in even the next ring, so Rambo will have an opportunity to get his teammates back in, but it's not going to be a fun time.
Yeah, and they actually get a little bit of extra space here that TSM is looking right on top of, and it looks like they might be landing right on top of the last member of Torrent or somewhere damn near close. So TSM here flying in. Ah, there it is. So yeah, they get to hold out for a little bit longer. It looks like Rambo just gets a little bit of extra space just because every other team wants these buildings, right? That is where you want to be sitting. You don't want to be sitting too far on the outside, though. Of course, TSM opting for this spot here. They are taking some damage from a fuse, but they're going to be holding strong as Dexterity the ones looking out.
Yeah, they're keeping their eyes on it, but they're not looking to push just yet. Holding this building very nicely. They know that there is that team just right over to their left as they are trying to keep the pressure on. I think really, though, they want to just make sure this building can't get pushed.
You love to see Dexterity there. Also putting Davis, of course, on the fuse duty, which is still pretty strong on this map. Honestly, just the amount of damage that it can deal out is pretty useful, and that ultimate, of course, with the extra information does do a lot of work. I am a little bit surprised to see TSM here employing the exact same comp as World's Edge.
Yeah, pulling out the crypto, which we have not seen anywhere near as much as in World's Edge. So Hal just really feeling the crypto. Xset running the Wraith, which we didn't see too much of in the last time around, as they are going to just run through the ring real quick. They don't need to move at all. Ring's technically moving, but it's kind of doing that weird vibrating thing where it's not actually moving.
Yep.
And it's just going to keep staying near them. Wow. Okay. This is moving very much into that northeast side. And as you can see by the green there, will continue to move up there. TL also just don't need to move anywhere, as C9 just trying to get back into the ring here.
And this choke is going to be very well contested and very well looked at by plenty of squads, of course. So C9 having to make a decision here, and they have to make it quickly. They see at least one squad down below that's going to pressure them. And this is the problem with that playstyle, right? You're going to run into the G2s who are already just taking names and taking down so many teams on the Thunderwatch side. TL also with a charge rifle looking on both of these teams, creating a bit of a sandwich there onto G2. So both of those squads probably not the happiest with their position, and something's got to give.
Eventually, but TL are keeping their eyes up there. They know that they have some people to keep watch on, as the Valkyrie from Cloud9 will come through. I believe they have a spot they can get to around here. Yeah, they know there's people in that area. I think they need to move a little bit further out, because I think if they land here, it's going to be a push. Yeah, here comes Xset.
Xset on the engage, already kicking things off with an arc star. They haven't committed quite yet, and there is the vault upward, but it's a lot of damage traded in return, and the black hole not quite doing what it needed to. Klain putting down a lot of damage and continues to pressure the squad. They're going to survive for now, though. Cloud9 took a lot of damage, but they are trading plenty of damage in return, and now the sky nades are coming out. The defense is coming out for Cloud9. They're burning, but they're alive.
They're alive, and I think that's partially due to the fact that TL is going to be poking over on Xset as well. So they're going to stay around for just a bit. Yeah, here comes the push.
And C9 there. Actually, Esports Arena, the ones that are dropping down and doing tons of work with some assistance from C9 up on the height. So just like that, Cloud9 and ESA now looking right at each other. That is a strange audio glitch if I have ever heard it.
I don't know if that's an audio glitch or more aggression. I think that may just be... Okay, we are getting told that was a glitch, so no more teabagging. Just yet. Yeah, for now. You never know. It can always come back. C9 do survive that one out thanks to help from ESA. And now they will just heal back up and wait for their time. Round 3 going to be closing soon, but most of these teams seem to already be inside the ring. Is ESA going to keep eyes on C9?
And they do have a slight shield advantage as well, I believe. I think there might be at least one more blue still on C9. Esports Arena, though, might not be the healthy... Oh, they got plenty of bats. They're just choosing not to heal up. They are waiting and biding their time. They don't have to move, though, and that is going to be a huge benefit. Meanwhile, TSM definitely does have to move and definitely is eating a lot of artillery from multiple teams. We saw them struggling a little bit with this earlier, and they need to Valkyrie sooner than later, or they're going to be taken down by potentially the Tor duo that was able to pick up Iris.
Yeah, don't know if they got their other member up because we did not see it, but TSM, yeah, they're going to Valkyrie away. See where they can go, but Ring is still just going to push them into this area that is already taken. They can't go in that building, and it's not going to turn out well for them.
But they take it anyway, and now they're going to play the bottom side, sharing it with this other squad, and it's actually TL, who was probably not expecting to have to deal with a team fight just like this. They are able to shield up for the time being, and both squads are going to share this building whether they like it or not, at least until one team decides they've had enough. But as long as they both pay rent, they'll be chilling here until at least the next ring.
NRG, as we check back in, sitting on 2 reds right now, and definitely feeling happy about where things are coming. Round 3 going to be closing in on them, but they're still in the middle of a fight. But if there's any composition that is capable of fighting, it is definitely this one.
Yeah, and they have plenty of room and plenty of bullets to put on the hurt to every other squad in the mix. Again, running with that Bangalore as well, they're going to be able to do just a lot of annoying work with that ultimate, blocking sight lines and also dealing damage. We're going to look on the backside as well, potentially looking to keep out one more team that is very far from ring. That's actually going to be Kick.
Yeah, Dexterity do get taken down as Kick do get that KP. CLG also hanging out just on the other side here, and I think they're just kind of hoping these teams don't notice them for the time being. As we do see another drone from the Crypto. Here comes the Bangalore ult that is going to pressure a little bit onto CLG, so they are aware that that team is around, as Kick are going to maybe look to try and move as this team from the other side is going to push them.
And if anyone said this wasn't competitive, 15 squads left as we approach ring number 4. Kick doing their best to open up some space. There is the Crypto drone and potentially the Crypto ultimate. There it is. There might be just a solo member or perhaps a duo. Never mind, a full squad just stacked on top of each other, and Yuzako just pumping out the damage with the Massive, looking for one more clean. Pump 78 damage to the face. There might be just a solo member or perhaps a duo. Never mind, a full squad just stacked on top of each other, and Yuzako just pumping out the damage with the Massive, looking for one more clean. Pump 78 damage to the face of Renegades, and Kick able to clean that one up, and they have to recover quickly because the third party is in the wings.
Yeah, it is coming very quick here as another team. It is SSG who are coming back into it with the Devo, with the full bonus on that one for the extra speed. SSG pushing in, and they are looking to take this fight.
Danielle getting dealt a little bit of damage, but just look at the way they are taking this fight. They're eating quite a bit of damage, but it does not matter as Frex walks up with the wingman. They clean that up. They pick up the KP. Kick is out. EU is out of the lobby. 11 squads left.
So now they will just push through. SSG can just kind of move pretty safely here. CLG still getting in and around here as all the fighting did let them sneak around, but they are not going to be able to get there pretty safely. Nano is doing this without shields here, so it's going to be a rough landing for this Valkyrie.
Yep, and this is just how it always goes, and this is the problem with spots like these. There are 11 squads, so we've managed to shave off at least 4, but still not a lot of room to be played as this circle closes. You will take any cover you can get. If it is a blue bin, you will take it for the time being, and now CLG has to pray that the fuses don't come out to play.
Absolutely. This is one of those areas where Fuse is so frustrating to deal with because his nades on the tactical just are easy damage to pick up, and they cover so much area. They could get inside those buildings that the Valk missiles cannot. So as we do see, Zenio is very low on SSG, so they gotta back away. Hope these teams, okay, just knock them from that far away. That's cool.
Yep, someone's wingman was looking kind of nice there, but they are able to stabilize. G2 also finds a spot right at the edge of the ring, but look at how ridiculously packed is this getting. Complexity down to 2 members and is going to look for at least one cleanup. That's going to be onto Optimal. Ambition actually are winners of last match, but Complexity now getting ulted on by Cloud9. Cloud9 looking for some extra KP on the way to the end of the ring, and now they need to look back at ESA. They've been dealing with that squad until at least ring 5, so it looks like at some point they're gonna have to contest that building or find another spot to play.
ESA also just still hanging in here. This is great for them. This ring has just been coming over to them constantly, and they've got the only building left in the next ring. So as this next ring closes, everyone's going to be pushing into them, and they just need to play defense for the time being.
Yep, they are indeed going to just try and post up, defend, because they are one of the last building in zone. As we check out ring number 5, that is not going to be too kind to a lot of the squads that we saw rotate later in. We see one squad playing a box, and it's SSG that's going to continue to pressure that squad in particular. The scan is there though, and we actually see Frex on the Bloodhound dealing a lot of damage as well as getting him fantastic intel. But the EMP is just in time for that bubble to go down. And so instead of having that defensive bubble to play around, SSG just have to clean up this fight with whatever they can get. And they're going to eat ring damage on the way out. Frex, the last one standing. There will not be banners picked up, and there will not be 3 members of SSG for the late game. Esports Arena, though, definitely looking healthy and plenty of LOS to work with.
Yeah, Complexity also still alive here despite the respawn down on Reptar. And they can get some placement points. Remember, they are our top team for the time being. And if they could keep getting points for themselves, they can keep that lead as G2 maybe looking to take some points for themselves in this 3v3.
They are playing the corner of a crevice, anything that they can find. There have been no nades thrown their direction quite yet to force them out. And now they're walking up a little bit. They're going to hit this bat, and they're potentially going to hit this fight. This is one of the last walls that they can play, but Complexity is not making it easy. And Complexity just walking up and ulting. They're doing their best to play the drop shield, and they're doing just great for the time being. Monsoon and the other member of Complexity both get dropped as Cloud9 shoots them in the back.
C9 definitely looking a little rough for wear right now as TL sitting up on the top, feeling pretty here. Look at this. They're fully ready to go, and they don't care at all. Just nobody is focusing them.
Yeah, TL, not a care in the world. They have potentially Esports Arena underneath them. We know Cloud9 is still up as well. So 4 squads left and 1 ring left to close down. The pings go down after a 72 crack. G7 looking really scary in the hands of Fun FPS.
They can put out a lot of damage here, and especially from this higher ground, you can just constantly poke out here. No ult yet from the Gibby, so they are going to have to play it a little bit safe. Here comes another defensive bombardment from a different team. So bubble will come out, but I don't think anybody's going to be pushing TL anytime soon, so they shouldn't have to worry. Oh, they may just drop themselves.
And this is actually such a great spot. They know that ESA has to play from the front of the building, so they drop to the side. And they are just pumping damage into G2.
They're taking
trying
a lot,
to hold
though.
the wall, but they have to run. 54 damage as well on the red. And now they have to commit to a side. There's not a lot of space left to play. Nocturnal almost going down. Nocturnal ripping up that, and he needs their teammates to shoot for him, but does go down anyway. G2 ruining TL's day as Guild the last one standing, and G2 still looking plenty healthy for this last member. They do get dropped by the ultimate,
C9.
and this might be Cloud9's game to win.
Yeah, C9 still in it here and looking to be our winners as they do just have one more person to take out, and that will be C9 winning game 5 here. C9 was one of our teams that could push up to a first place finish depending on how everybody else plays, and they're finally able to get a win for themselves. Great play from them. And honestly, I'm a little frustrated there that TL dropped so early, because they just dropped and then eventually just got focus fired by every other squad that came in. I feel like they could have waited a little bit longer there and tried to wait for ESA to push out first and go in on them.
And it certainly looked that way. I believe ESA ended up pushing off to the left with a bubble, and they had a crevice to play, but maybe a touch too early. We'll have to watch back the replays because that was such a close fight for all of these teams. G2 making so much trouble for all of those final squads, but in the end, C9 playing the back near the cannon for so long in this game, picking up kill after kill and picking up perfect positioning to win this game. I am so excited to check out the scoreboard because there are a lot of squads that are turning this leaderboard on its head. And with 1 game to go, it'll come down to one last visit to Storm Point to see who takes down the Carnage Cup number 3.
Yeah, it's going to be coming down to the wire, because remember, going into this, it was still very close. And I think based on that game, it's still going to be close. We're seeing different teams do well every single game. Teams that we hadn't seen pop off are popping off and getting wins for themselves. We have not had anybody repeat a win, and I don't think it's really even been close for any of these teams to be pulling out a second win. So it's all over the place, and I'm sure once we do get those points tallied up, it is going to be very close as we get ready for our final game for our first place finish.
And SSG definitely has to be in the back and honestly the front of our minds because we actually get to see them this game, right? They dropped way, way too early to the likes of Xset on drop. And now that we get to see them in a later game, they were able to pick up more points. They were able to pick up more KP. They didn't find a win or really even a top three, but that is going to make a difference for all of these teams that are vying for a top finish. Man, it's going to be Xset's duty, in fact, to take out SSG if it means another team is going to take down the tournament.
Yeah, so this is going to be down to the wire. What teams will we be watching going in? Now, remember, the final games, this is where if you know you're not going to be able to win, you're just going to try and play spoiler, be annoying to other teams, and see if you can have your name at least talked about as having an impact in this tournament. But these teams up near the top, what is the game plan? Is the game plan sit back, just try and get placement points, play safe to make sure that you can at least get some points? Or is it going to be aggression? Is it going to be pushing in onto other players and getting that KP so that you confirm a win for yourself?
And we'll have the leaderboard here shortly to see what teams have to do the heaviest of heavy lifting. Of course, teams that are near the top of the stack now are looking to defend their spot. But there are a lot of teams near the bottom that really just want to vie for higher placement and a higher chunk of the prize pool. So let's roll into that leaderboard and see exactly what we're looking at for game number 6. And C9 takes the lead. Actually, Complexity taking second place. So Space Station not even in the conversation right now after that game. 42 points for them. And another squad that again we didn't get to see as much. They dropped early to a contest. Esports Arena in fourth, tied with TL with 38 points, or excuse me, 2 points ahead of TL with 38.
Yeah, I mean, right now, I think Complexity and SSG are the only teams that realistically are going to be pulling anything off in terms of taking place away. But really, it is going to be just those teams below them that are going to push for second or third. They might try and take out Complexity or SSG to confirm that for themselves and make sure that there are not competing for points, but take them out and just need to get a couple points to take the lead away from them. C9 really do just have to get some placement points. They don't have to play aggressive here. They hold out. It was a bunch of points in that game, and they can hold off by just playing consistent and safe.
And again, the top of the line for performances, we already got to see set a little bit ago. 27 points for a win was the name of the game, but TL managed a 25-point win just yesterday. So there's a lot that can turn the entire leaderboard on its head just very, very quickly. All of these teams need to be watching their back, especially with teams like NRG playing the comp that they are. That is terrifying. You don't want to run into that. You don't want to run into the knuckle clusters followed up by a nade, following up by 4 arc stars. That was just gross to watch in game number 1 of Stormpoint. So we'll get to see if these teams can bounce back and recover and if someone can steal the throne away from C9.
Yeah, it's gonna be close. I feel like there's a possibility because we have seen a couple of games where C9 didn't do well and kind of fell apart early. But what will we see in game 6 here? Because it's going to be very close. These
And there
teams
is going to be
want
a
it
lot to watch.
extremely, extremely bad. And there is a lot of money on the line. So I'm sure the nerves are riding high for some of these players.
And as bodies get shot left and right in Storm Point, we will be taking a look very soon at what the final distribution of players will be and whether anyone decides to not commit to their POI. But again, this is a tournament that might be setting a very serious precedent for what we might end up seeing in the ALGS. Of course, once we get into the full-fledged tournaments, we'll be looking and seeing whether these teams make any adjustments or whether they say, this is my land and you aren't coming anywhere near my loot. We've seen at least a couple of squads like TL also employ the use of the Loba, which does make a really big difference in those latter game rings where you're not going to have easy access to death boxes from teams that finish off other squads. So we'll get to see what that ends up looking like here very shortly. But man, I love to see the composition creativity here.
Yeah, well, we are getting into our final game of the day, and we'll see what is going to happen here. Maybe some teams switch it up, try and go for some different POIs that they want to land on. Maybe try and contest when they wouldn't usually. Maybe try to stay safe when they wouldn't usually. We'll see how that's going to work out. But we have seen nothing but action on these drops, as I do see 100 Thieves and SSG are landing together on Launchpad once again.
Yep. I think at this point it's all about just cementing your place on the POI. I believe they have each won one, so yeah, it might
Yes.
just be playing for the pride here, but Space Station Gaming certainly trying to play for the win as well. So if they are able to win out this fight, they will pick up 3 KP on their way to the zone. But SSG actually now grabbing the building, which is an interesting mix-up from last time.
Yeah, things getting aggressive as usual at Launchpad, but so far it is just a loot up. Now SSG are getting this backside when they did not get it last time around. They were up near the top, so a little bit different played here, and we'll see if that means a little bit different in terms of results, as 100 Thieves are now playing up onto that top side. I'm running that Sentinel. No scope on it just yet, but just going to be trying to poke out as much as possible, as shield's looking nice for 100 Thieves.
Yep. Once again, a very decent shield situation, but we've seen them lose it even with this sort of advantage. They rolled up last time with a Devo, but SSG now turning the tables potentially with a Devo of their own. This just seems to be history getting written, rewritten, and then re-repeated in all sorts of different orders, as SSG might be looking for an engage here. I think one member of 100 Thieves already up there, and yep, there we see it. So bit of a pinch here is SSG. They're gonna have to make their way on out, getting looked at from a lot of different directions. But very notably, Sentinel's just eliminated in the kill feed.
Yeah,
and
Sentinel's taken out, and Dropped is taken down as well. This might be the full send from 100 Thieves. They just trying to poke him out as much as possible. Speaking of Sentinel, it is doing work for 100 Thieves, as they are just gonna go in for this 2v3.
And hopefully they're able to clean it up in a little bit smoother fashion than their first fight that we saw a little bit earlier today. 100 Thieves on the flight. 100 Thieves with the fist. Vaxlon picking up that knock that is going to spell the end of Space Station Gaming most likely. And with that, they will also spell the end of their potential tournament win. G2 also getting knocked out by Furia. Finally winning this fight is Furia, who claims lightning round for their own, and bodies will be shot.
Yep, there we go. Oh my goodness. Yeah, get the free cam on that one. You know, make it feel good. Get the taunt on it too. Goodness. Okay. I don't know. I just don't get that same kind of feeling from Apex when I play myself. But Kick, they are getting pushed here, or they're pushing in and not winning.
Yeah, they actually run straight into fun FPS's Thermite, and that is not how you want to start the fight. So already 2 knocks, and the grief coming from the Prowlers. So TL with a little bit of help able to pick up 3 KP. Honestly gifted to them by that squad. EU is once again out of the mix, which means we will certainly have an NA winner for this lobby.
Yeah, we will, as Prowler's doing a little bit of fun there, jumping up. TL, nice start for themselves. Right now, though, I want to see where things are going for C9, because they are really the team to watch for this. Things are
C9 taking out ESA too, which is a huge boon for them.
Yeah, major win for them, because that's another 3 KP that people need to make up in some way, shape, or form, and it's just going to get harder and harder as more squads go down.
And TL, one of those squads that is potentially in the conversation, though a little bit more outside looking in, unless they have a huge game here. Renegades on the rotate, gonna find a nice spot right on the edge. And once again, Thousand Eyes, we're down to 16 squads in ring number 1.
Absolutely. I mean, did we expect anything different? We have so many teams that are landing on each other and trying to fight right out the gate. So while it's not the usual for professional Apex, it is the usual for our current teams. C9, though, 1 member down.
And they're fighting up against Complexity, which is definitely one of the scarier teams that you don't want to be team fighting without a decent advantage. So Naughty going down, Albralele almost getting 1 clip, but actually returns the favor onto Monsoon. And right now, Cloud9 is pretty happy with their position, as they're going to be able to pick up their 3rd. Zach Mazer keeping the pressure up on the rock and has the gravity lift to continue raining down damage on Complexity. So one of the teams that was able to upset Cloud9 might be on the brink of extinction.
Cloud9 very close, but they are just going to take out Complexity. Stainani went down, but it didn't matter. They got him back up, and they did take out Complexity. Another 3 KP for C9. They are looking to cement this win for us.
So now we've got Complexity out. We've got SSG out. We've got Esports Arena also out, which means the only real contending team left in the top 5 is Team Liquid.
Now, Team Liquid are definitely a good amount back here, if I do remember correct. Yeah, they are 36 points to the 52 on C9. I don't know if that's really possible.
We'll have to see. We'll have to see. But it is going to take a lot of heavy lifting. CLG, another squad that has definitely woken up and brightened up on Stormpoint, because honestly, they just did not find the success that they needed on World's Edge. So going into the bigger tournaments, going into ALGS, of course, this might be where they kind of cement themselves once again, where they prove that they are, you know, amidst the top of the stack in terms of NA players.
Guys, Exet getting a little bit of poked here. That feels terrible. Goodness. Just as soon as you start getting in on that and you can't cancel the animation, just getting beamed.
And Exet continues to get beamed. They are taking a lot of damage. Klein hasn't even been able to recover and actually goes down. That is the worst way to go down, and they are going to be kicking themselves as Optimal Ambition now going to pop the defensive bombardment. Of course, the Gibby going down means no bubble. They will likely clean up this fight. Wizzy. Oh my goodness, what a shot there with the wingman, and of course the follow-up from the Valk.
Yeah, OA, another team that really has only had one great stop. C9 though pressured here in the ring from another squad.
Yep, there's a lot of damage raining down in C9. The team to watch, the team to beat right now. And Zach Mazer showing why that is. They do get traded out, though. And one member left. Aberlele gets fried just a little bit walking up, but it's going to be up to Impulse and a 76, a 55, and a 104 off the ground. Cloud9 continues to rampage through this lobby.
That's another 2 KP. But now 6 is still alive and may try and clean this up. We'll see how it works out. Beam onto Aberlele, but not enough. So TSM, or sorry, bleh. That was Cloud9 winning that fight there. Ghost going down.
Meanwhile,
wow.
NRG with their big vibe and comp, not the best situation here, is able to pick up Sweet, and they're going to continue with their onslaught of nades and missiles against another squad here that they might be looking at. This was actually where Exet was going down earlier, so might be the squad that they're bullying. CLG also sort of proximal to the area, potentially looking up at them as well. As these teams move in and as all 13 squads start to walk into ring number 2 in about 3 minutes, we're going to get to see a little bit more fighting.
Absolutely. I'm willing to call it right now. I don't think anybody could catch up to C9 here at this point. I'm looking at the teams that are left, and I'm looking at what is available in terms of points. Unless C9 go down like right now and TL just go off, I don't think it's possible.
And I think they've already picked up at least 4 KP, maybe 5, maybe 6.
They picked up 6. They picked up 6.
They're in a good position here. NRG just going to continue finishing off their tournament in the best way that they can, and that is, of course, by fighting and running into a building with Fuse, Horizon, and Nathan, of course, on the Bangalore to make it harder on all of these squads. CLG trying to defend this building, but NRG just playing every single corner that they can, and a huge 99 pump followed by 85. Can you even deal more damage with the PK? And Nathan is just making this an absolute disaster for the squad inside.
Yeah, here comes the pressure. Although, wait, hold on. Sweet is taking a lot more damage.
And actually almost going down to their own arc star, but the bubble is there. They're able to play just outside of it. That is a lot of cracks coming out and just popping the ring of fire on the inside of the building. Rocker without a care in the world. NRG is not going to leave without this KP.
They want it bad. Look at this. This is so rude. Here comes the push. CLG's hanging in the corner, but I don't think they're going to be there for long.
and finally a knock onto Mamba, but this is still a relatively close fight, all things considered. Vatro losing his shield, the pumps coming out from the PK, and a whip that you really don't want to see in a situation like this. Nathan does get traded out, but Nano is going to fall, CLG is going to fall, and NRG just continues their onslaught of aping teams for all of their marbles.
Yeah, well, it's not done yet because here comes Torrent and they want the fight too with the shots coming in from the Mastiff. Oh, they're not winning that. There's more squads around.
Oh my goodness, this is just getting more crowded. This building is the hottest piece of real estate on the entire map. Tor finding a crack. Tor potentially picking up Rambo. Tor smells blood in the water, but they have to be patient. And here we go. The PK pumps coming out from RKN, but getting traded out immediately. And Yuris, the last man standing. NRG continues to establish themselves the kings of this tiny castle, but they lose too. And Esports Arena might finally take the crown.
Yeah, Esports Arena really wanting this KP, really wanting this placement here, because look at that ring. Green ring, right where they are. They don't want to move. This is so great for them.
Yep, that is just how it goes, man. There's not a lot left to do. Esports Arena, though, still left alive, and actually, they're also definitely in contention. I definitely misspoke here, as TL not the only squad left, potentially making a run, but with how far ahead C9 is, it's also going to be heavy lifting for Esports Arena.
Absolutely. Esports Arena need to get more pressure, so we will see if they can do that.
But of course, looking at the way NA loves to play the end of their tournaments, this is in pretty standard fashion, as everyone decides that fighting is the name of the game. Under Thieves, though, playing a little bit more patient here. They did pick up their 3 early kills and took out SSG. I definitely thought the Gibby was going to clip onto that height there, but they're going to reposition here deeper into ring. Looks like they're playing for a more standard win the game sort of play style.
Absolutely. 100 Thieves now moving in. This will just be a nice rotation here. Nobody near them. They can just hide behind this hill.
There was someone just over the bend. This might give him a little bit of trouble. The tactical's coming left and right, and that's 2 separate Valkyries with 2 separate sets of missiles putting on the pressure. Optimal Ambition as well, looking across the way. We see Esports Arena still chilling in that building. So 100 Thieves is able to find a decent spot for now.
Yeah. As now, here comes the beams from SSG. Boxity going to be healing back up. They do have a shield swap in there if they do get pushed, so they can hold off a little bit longer than most other teams would right now, as RNG also hanging on this hill and maybe looking to try and make a push.
I think with that being said, we're just going to continue sitting on our hands, as the violence seems to have been toned down just a little bit. Renegades trying to find a nice little spot here that they can play, and that is a lot of damage, in fact, going out onto the squad down below, and they're going to engage. That is a dead slide for them in terms of players staying alive. 96 pump coming out from RNG, and the bubble fight is in full force. They eliminate 100 Thieves, who seem to be comfortable for just a moment, but Madness and the crew says no.
Yeah, that's going to be RNG picking that one up and feeling fine about it, because they're just right next to the ring. Now, granted, they don't have a great spot to go into. That building that was pressured over from ESA is very hotly contested and will be held very safely by them, as TSM, not where they normally are, just hanging out on the outside of the ring.
And unfortunately, in this situation, if there are still plenty of spots with plenty of squads that are willing to just take these fights. Interesting little wrap here from Nightmare, who are still vying for a decent position, but they do run straight into another squad, and that Gibby is running for dear life. There is the grenade, and there is a defensive bombardment right on top of them. That squad decided to just go full aggro, and now NM is on the defense, and it's TSM who's trying to fight this one out. They do lose Hal, but they managed to knock down a little bit more damage and find a battery. 100 damage there with the Arc Star.
Absolutely. Now TSM really getting pushed hard here. They might just be getting caught out on the side of the ring, but here comes Reps hitting the shots on the shotgun to make the win happen. Great job from Reps. Holy, TSM gonna stay alive here for now, and they will be okay, not too far from the ring. This is so good for TSM.
Was gross. That Mastiff was looking so saucy there from Reps, and he just manages to ruin NM's day and ruin their last game for the Carnage Cup. Dexterity now looking on the very edge as well. At least one other squad potentially looking to find their way in. They're going to go ahead and Valk right on over them, though. So DXT gets to chill for just a second. That other squad, though, definitely needs to find a spot in the ring sooner than later.
Here comes Furia. They're looking to come in here, but I think they've got to really fight on land here. There's teams everywhere in here. Round 3 closing, and we only have 8 squads, though, so there definitely will be some spots available, but it is not here.
And Cloud9 continues their onslaught, but they eat a huge grenade, and they have to put down the bubble to avoid being completely ruined. They don't have a lot more heavy lifting left to do to take down the tournament, but they want this game win. They want the repeat, the only repeat I think that we'll see in the lobby should they manage it. So now they have to find their way up and across all of this water.
Yeah, Cloud9 able to get back away here, but they're not in a great spot. So yeah, here comes the Valk ult to keep them alive. Get the spinnies out, you know. just work, make the G-force even worse. How do these guys not like throw up as they're going off there? I feel like if I was in this situation, I'd just be like losing my lunch as we spun around and flew up into the air.
That's why they get paid to do what they do, the experts in keeping their food in their stomachs here, Cloud9, and definitely keeping a hold of a pretty nice building here. I'm very surprised that that was left wide open. Optimal Ambition, the squad looking on over. They're going to look for a nade here, maybe look for a crack. I don't think they'll engage off of anything like this, though, and C9 looking pretty comfortable.
TSM also hanging around on this outside here. They're fairly out in the open, but nobody's focusing. Well, okay, I shouldn't speak. I'm going to ruin their day if I do. TL also another squad that's hanging out on the edge here and need to move in. There's not a great option for them to rotate here. Everything here is pretty open except for the side where Fun FPS is on.
If we can do some quick math here, 24 squads or 24 players left, excuse me, means that there is only 21 KP available for TL to claim in this late game. And the same goes for Esports Arena. Both teams vying and fighting to potentially dethrone C9, who is already in the late game with KP to their name.
Yeah, ESA really was the only person that was, or the only team that was within a real striking distance. Comes Dexterity to getting pushed really hard. Stomps will get the heals off, but it is just really tight in this spot here. Oh, he's hit again.
Tough here for Dexterity, who managed to find their way in for now. Stomps just wants to get healthy and walk in. Furia, another squad that we hadn't seen since they actually eliminated G2 from the lobby, also finding their way in this building. And they're the ones that might be getting frisky with at least one other squad. But 8 squads left means that every squad wants to hold the building as long as possible. Don't take fights willy-nilly here. Esports Arena, one of those squads that needs to hold this down and needs to continue utilizing it and farm KP.
Yeah, they're holding off on the side here. TSM, the only team that is not currently inside a building, just over on the side here. That does mean, though, that they don't need to worry about teams as much. You can see that we're actually seeing C9 and TSM, I think, are really in the best spots because they're not sharing a spot with somebody else. They don't need to worry as much. RNG actually also out on this side here, so apologies, I misspoke. They're just going to be holding as long as they can, but they need to move because that ring is definitely not pulling into their area.
We know there's at least 2 squads chilling on the building to their left, so they will not have a free Ash port or really even a free Valkyrie ult to get into a decent position. They might be able to play a roof, and the cluster bombs here pressuring Optimal Ambition, who has been holding this building for so long. Now might be the opportunity for the likes of Renegades to walk on in and find some space, but Cloud9 also has to move. They're not in ring here, and I don't think their edge of their building is either.
Now TSM and Cloud9 both looking around here as TSM, I think, is moving up on them. No, that's TL, actually. They're gonna go for the Valk. I'm not a fan of these late game Valk. It ends up with you landing right in view of people, and Nocturnal is gonna be super low doing so.
You got to do what you got to do sometimes, and Nocturnal most likely going to fall here as they drop onto ESA's building.
Ooh,
They're
they went
surviving for now, and Esports Arena does not want to climb here, so they're going to continue staying up, and Cloud9 in the meantime was actually busy eliminating Dexterity and putting the pressure onto Optimal Ambition, who had to move. Bubbles forward, but drops in their stead as well, so Zach Mazer going to have to try and pop this bat and make some space as Albert Lely is picked up amidst the defensive bombardment. Not long left for the bubble, so there is the ultimate, there is the commit, and there is Cloud9 walking up for this fight. There is a lot of damage from the hit, but not enough, and Optimal Ambition stays alive as TSM finding a nice spot at the edge of ring to bully every single squad that killed them earlier in these matches.
Yeah, they're holding this extremely well here. As everybody else is fighting, they can just keep peeking over, poking. As we did see both TL and C9 went down in 8th and 7th respectively. As now RNG still in here. I believe ESA is still alive as well, as Furia is holding that building alongside with them, and Furia is going to go for the push.
Here we go. Zera looking for the bumps with the PK, finding a big 99 pump under the horizon. No one going down quite yet though, and everyone is holding on. Tech manages to knock Skittles, and Tech doing a lot of work with the wingman, but Pander's actually the last man standing and needs to make their way out of this building sooner than later. Manages a shield swap, not quite full, finds another one, a lot better there, and an 80 pump to the face of that Gibby. Furious stays alive for now. Oh no, and just like that, we lose the last contender, and TSM might not be winning the tournament, but they might be winning this match for brownie points.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you're going to take it, this could put TSM into maybe a spot where they could get third, but we don't really know as of yet, but TSM really want this. Look at their positioning they're in. Ring is coming to them full out on the shields. This game is theirs to lose.
And they're going to make sure that doesn't happen, throwing out everything that they can. The snares, the last of their grenades, the gunfire from the R3. Imperial Howl with the classic of Classic 1 clips. 72 into the back of Pow Pow from Renegades. But Reps does go down, and they need to make sure they clean this up. They do just that. TSM with the last straw of Storm Point, as wild as it was in NA Classic game number 6, and TSM is there to win it.
Yeah, great job by TSM. Very expertly played to let everybody else fight each other, and then great bubble fighting with the Mastiffs there, Reps, and we saw Imperial Howl doing great work to pick those wins up, and a major win for them. We'll see if that's enough to put them into third place, but I mean, I think it goes without saying that Cloud9 will probably be our champions for the day.
Yeah, Cloud9 had a very comfortable lead going into game number 6, Esports Arena. The last squad that really was vying for slightly more position and some of those placement points, as well as the KP that they collected along the way. But C9 was no slouch during that game, and they weren't slacking. They weren't avoiding fights. They were taking every fight that came their way that would benefit their placement in the end. So they managed to potentially leave even more headroom that was going to make it harder for ESA and even TL, who got knocked out a little bit earlier, to find their way into that number 1 spot. So going to hold off on the congratulations while we wait for the scoreboard. But that game was a fiesta, man. That was crazy. And Thousand Eyes talked to me, because that was ridiculous, man. I can't even. That was NA Classic, right?
Yeah, what? That's just what Storm Point kind of is right now, because people aren't figuring it out. People are still trying to know what's happening. And that's why we're seeing so many teams just go for these just 3v3 fights, because that's the consistency there, right? You don't know the map, but you do know the guns. You know how to fire them. You know how to take a 3v3 fight. So that is really what teams are looking to do if they want to stay consistent on this map for the time being. Eventually, I'm sure these teams will figure things out and we will get more consistent play on Stormpoint. But for the time being, it really is just kind of a just full on brawl in order to see who comes out on top.
Definitely fun to watch. I don't know if it would say I'd say it was the most competitive map, but definitely one that was very entertaining to watch. And even though C9 did have a comfortable lead, a lot of the squads that needed to show up and continue performing, I mean, what can you do, right? If you know you're at the bottom, if you're something like a TSM, right, where you know you can play really well, and I think you said it best multiple times, even if you're out of contention for the win, you were still vying for that third place spot. So TSM doing a pretty good job there of picking up some KP. And I guess just the sleeper picks at the end that we sort of failed to mention until they were already sitting on 3 reds near that end zone. So great job for TSM to clean that up. They might not have won the whole thing, but hey, it never hurts to win a game of Apex Legends.
Never does. And I'm sure that actually did help them a lot in terms of points. I want to see if it's going to actually matter because that's really the one thing that we're not certain of is where that second and third place ended up going to. Because now it's been so wild in these last couple of games. Trying to keep track of it all is incredibly difficult. So we'll see how that is going to end up as we do get our leaderboards ready.
And we will get to check that out right now. Let's see who took down the Knights Arena Carnage Cup number 3. Unsurprisingly, C9 making it happen. They are back to back winners of the Carnage Cup, putting up 62 points today. And honestly, it wasn't even close. Esports Arena within shooting distance, but 9 whole points behind. And Renegades, actually, who had a pretty big game, they showed up to the Wild Wild West in Renegade fashion and able to pick up third.
Yeah, and ESA also popping off there to get into that second spot and claim a nice chunk of change for themselves. Really got to be happy with how that whole day worked out for them. And honestly, if I'm looking at like SSG or G2, I'm kind of disappointed in how the day went because SSG and G2 yesterday looked really solid. They were consistent, they were doing really well, especially SSG, and then to come into this day and really just kind of falter. I mean, part of it did come from 100 Thieves taking them out in game 4 really early, but at the same time, it wasn't the same level of domination that we saw from SSG in our trials yesterday for the finals.
Yeah, definitely not what we were expecting to see based on the qualifiers. And that's another team that I need to shout out because they played very differently and maybe strat occlusion or maybe just having a good day and a good bit of fun NRG with their ridiculous composition. Honestly, did a lot of work on Stormpoint, but curious to know if that's actually what they're going to roll with or if they decided, hey, game 6, we're on Stormpoint. Let's mess around. And honestly, they started off Stormpoint pretty strong and found a lot of kills. So it could have mixed things up right there, but still a blast to watch. A blast to watch a lot of these squads actually who were mixing up their compositions.
Yeah, it was really interesting to see. I mean, we did see NRG go for a couple of different things too, as well. The really aggressive stuff from the Horizon and the Fuse. If I do remember seeing, it was just kind of off the cuff. They kind of just said, you know what, screw it, let's play Fuse and Horizon and just go full aggro. But it worked out. It seemed to go really well for them once they did pick that up and just go full in on it.
Yep. And honestly, it worked out for a lot of the squads near the top. So, congratulations to them. It was a pleasure getting a look at Stormpoint. Pleasure to be joined by you. It was. So World's Edge and Stormpoint, man, that's gonna be the name of the game. That's gonna be our home bases, not just base. We're finally off of World's Edge. I'm curious to know, will these teams adapt? Will the bodies being shot on the ground of these contests going to make a difference? Will it be taken to DMs? I cannot wait to see what this map has in store for us.
Yeah, I'm sure it's only going to get more and more interesting. We're going to eventually see, what the right rotations are, what the better areas are, because it's really just all feel right now. And Stormpoint is going, I think, to get better and better. And eventually we'll see less and less of these kind of full on brawls and more the same kind of stuff that we do see on World's Edge, where we get to those really long late game rings and it's just, three or four teams that are trying desperately to hold on as it closes.
Absolutely. So we'll get to see things continue to get mixed up, but that's going to be it for Carnage Cup number 3. Congratulations to the winners again, C9 back to back. Put some respect on the name. Shout outs to Al and shout out to that entire squad because they absolutely shredded on day number 2 of the Carnage Cup. Thanks to everyone for joining us. Of course, everyone in the viewership. It was a blast getting to cast this with you, 1,000 Eyes. Shout out to Knights Arena and PK because this was sick. This was a great event, and this was one of the last events we're gonna get to see rolling into the ALGS. So, without further ado, any more words from you, 1,000 Eyes?
Yeah, I mean, look, I had a blast casting this. I was so great to see like all of these great teams just prepping in as we go into our ALGS stuff. That is going to be so exciting. And hopefully we'll start to see teams figure stuff out and make things happen.
Now, well, with that being said, thank you so much to everyone who tuned in. That was a blast. Keep an eye out on all these teams because it's only going to get better and better from here. And yeah, congrats to all the winners. We will catch you for the next Carnage Cup, and we'll see you around. Pleasure being here.